Hello again, everybody, and welcome to an awe-inspiring edition of the Jim Cornette Experience. I am Satan himself, Jim Cornette, and today, Ring of Honor gets kicked in the dick, Kentucky dumps a dick, Impact gains a dick, Austin Aries is a dick, and NXT gets a dose of Viagra in its dick-waving contest with AEW. And to join me in discussing all this and so much more, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you. He's the proprietor of the French Toast Chateau, and he doesn't have to fly all the way to Honolulu and buy a surfboard to hang 10. He can just stand there and smile. Your friend and mine, the great Brian Last.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. Let me clarify, because we've had a few concerned listeners get in touch. Swami is okay. Oh, Swami is perfectly healthy. Right. I don't know why Jim doesn't mention Swami, but it has nothing to do with the health of Swami.
I just started going in different directions, and also it was getting so long. I figured Swami had had his moment in the sun, his belly rubbed. I apologize if I'm raspy today. I had hiccups on and off, mostly on, for 4 to 5 hours last night. Couldn't sleep, couldn't fucking, my throat has been bruised. My most precious possession. So I do apologize, but we'll try to get through this because there's so much to talk about. And right off the top, Kentucky governor Matt Bevin has been trumped by the Democrat Andy Beshear. Even Kentucky has had enough of these criminal fucking assholes. And Bevin, all over television here in Louisville and all over the state of Kentucky for the last month, has been hugging, swinging off Donald Trump's dick, has been, these socialists, they make these goddamn commercials, these political commercials the Republicans do for morons. Now, I realize that sounds obvious, but really stupid morons. Because they're like, these socialists in Washington are going to destroy our way of life and give away your children unless you vote for Matt Bevin, who loves Trump. And there's pictures of Bevin and Trump. Well, he trumped himself. And he's an asshole anyway. He's the second least popular governor in the entire country, or he was, Matt Bevin. And he won't quit. Did you see this? He will not concede. And it's like Bill Maher says about fucking Trump. He won't leave.
I'm curious what you think, because we've talked about it not too long ago, about Mitch McConnell's chances when he's up. Does this change the way you think his chances are? Does this change the fact that even though you have a few blue parts of Kentucky, they actually did win out this time? Does it change what you think is going to happen to the Senate?
Well, the thing now, Eastern Kentucky, even some of it turned blue, which is the Trumpiest area you can imagine. And they supposedly still love Trump, but Bevin was just such an exceptional asshole, right? He had maligned the teachers and pissed off people's retirement funds and pensions and everything. And they were hot to begin with. But when you ask the polls and ask anybody, no, they don't like Mitch McConnell, but he keeps getting reelected because all the fucking in the hillbilly parts of Kentucky are scared of socialism because they think that they're socialists and they'll take away our guns and they'll burn the churches down or whatever the fuck they're supposed to do. And they believe this shit because they don't fucking know any better. And they buy it because the Republican Party gears, especially in the South, gears its TV commercials to fucking simpletons who don't know what's going on. And the prophecy comes true when they turn out to be the ones that go and vote for the Republicans. So play to your audience, I guess.
You got a couple of real winners there with McConnell and Rand Paul, I'll tell you.
Oh, and what in Alabama now, Jeff Sessions is going to run for Senate, but Trump already said if he does, he'll bury him. But they're trying to knock the Democrat out down there who got elected by like 2 points over the child molester. The Republican
who's also running
that is also running again. He's hanging around the fucking malls looking for young girls, and people are telling stories about him around town for it. And he almost won the Senate race. And when it was in the news that they were saying these things, because, the Republicans' party of family values, especially if it's your family, apparently. Fuck. Anyway, what do we know, Mr. Last? you're our roving correspondent because I have heard nothing but gibberish about the Saudi Arabia situation.
Well, that's a funny story, isn't it?
What? I wish you'd tell it to me, because I haven't heard the fucking story yet. How can a group of celebrities who have just been there as guests of the goddamn ruler of the government feel like that they are being held hostage and not get out of the fucking country for a day or so?
Because they were held hostage and not allowed out of the country for a day or so. Coincidentally, right before they increased the deal with the WWF, where now they're going to do a guaranteed 2 shows a year through whatever 2027. Look, it's a weird situation.
They've been doing 2 anyway, right?
I think so, but I don't know if it was contractual that they had to do 2. I think it was at least 1, and then we'll see how much you need this $30 million, and now it's
good Lord,
at least 2. But there are a lot of stories that people who were there are saying. I've heard a few. The company's saying something completely different. The media completely did not cover this story. And everyone went back to work. I don't know. Everyone's back to work. A lot of families are upset. I've heard a few people say that their wives are a little upset.
Well, you think? So they're calling home saying, well, we can't leave from Saudi Arabia. So, yeah, I would think there's a few freaked out families. So what's Uncle Dave saying? Does he have the scoop?
Well, Dave has, I think, been very careful with this, as everyone has, because, there's not a lot of firm details out there. And there's also not a lot of people who want to go on the record and speak publicly about what happened over there. The only thing with Dave I saw was Dave reported about a locker room meeting before Raw, and he had reported that Seth Rollins had spoken during the meeting, and then Seth Rollins vociferously objected to that on Twitter and said that's a lie, it never happened, and Dave retracted it. Dave said, I apologize, and he retracted it. And that's the last thing I've heard about any of this stuff, quite frankly.
They can't keep a blowjob in the White House in the Oval Office closet a fucking secret, but we're not able to find out why 100 fucking wrestlers couldn't leave Saudi Arabia for a day or so. Very interesting.
Plane problems.
And by the way, kudos to Uncle Dave for admitting and not rectifying. What's the word that I'm searching for desperately and losing? Retracting his previous earlier and obviously erroneous statement. I wish he would retract some of his erroneous opinions. But nevertheless. Anyway, folks, I've got an announcement to make before we talk about some cool things involving Bobby Eaton, among other things. That's a little tease. Stay tuned for that. But the holiday sale season is here at JimCornette.com, and I have big news for the people who missed out on the hardcover edition of Behind the Curtain and its record selling out pace here a couple months ago. I will soon have softcover editions. As we had mentioned here a few weeks back, all of the IDW publishing was out of these things because I tried to get some after the hardcover sold out so quickly because people were clamoring. All of the books had gone to the various either Amazon fulfillment centers or bookstores. We've heard from so many people. I got the last copy at this bookstore and the last copy at that bookstore. I don't know which Amazon centers may have them, but it's gone into the second printing because of the demand, and I will soon have, and I don't want to start a panic, and I don't have an exact date, and we're going to have a few thousand of these things, so let's not just all goddamn become an unruly, angry mob, but I'll keep you posted on that. But there'll be autographed copies only available at JimCornette.com very soon.
Are you talking also softcover or hardcover?
Yes.
Okay.
No. I believe I said the words, what come out of my mouth was softcover. Because of these sales of the hardcover sold out, people got left out. They've been clamoring, can you get any more of these books? Well, we're getting the softcover book, which is in its second printing because it was so successful. Those were the main points of my statement.
Okay. I missed the word softcover.
Well, you don't even register the word soft. Everything's hard with you.
Okay.
It's very hard, almost impossible, as a matter of fact. Anyway, but holiday favorites right now on sale at JimCornette.com. Of course, the Houston's Wrestling Spectacular, the 4-hour DVD with Dusty Rhodes, Bruiser Brody, Nick Bockwinkel, Jack Briscoe, and the amazing full-length Wild Bull Curry versus Johnny Valentine match from 1969. Available for only $15. The Wrestling Gold, 5-disc, 10 hours in a library case, autographed 70s and 80s classic wrestling, $9. They're stocking stuffers. If you've got 4 friends, and a lot of people do have 4 friends, then for $36, right? 994 is that? Yeah. You can get them cleared up for Christmas. Get them for stocking stuffers, and the match listings, because I can't go through all of that, it's 10 hours worth, are available if you go to the website, JimCornette.com, click on collectibles and click on the DVD section, and boom, Wrestling Gold pops up, and there you go.
And I don't think you stress enough that you and Dave Meltzer are on commentary, on the alternate commentary track. That's a big selling point.
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't mention it, but you sometimes bring it up. And yes, on the alternate commentary, in addition to the incredible action and the commentary that's on the matches, the alternate track has me and Uncle Dave, back when he still had his grip on wrestling, let's say. This was done quite a while ago. Anyway. Also the Cult Cornette membership certificates, full color 8x10s, autographed, $10, burger towels, $10, 2 for $15. The classic t-shirts, thank you, fuck you, bye, is going to be incredible for the holiday parties this year, both at the office and the family parties. Cornette Face, Outlaw Mud Show, I'm a Jim Cornette guy, even fuck Jim Cornette, but for the kids. $5 off each fuck Jim Cornette shirt to the Crusade for Children. And they start at only $22. We got small through 5X, folks. We can fit anybody. And attention, the Hate is a Hell of a Motivator shirts are being closed out. What's left are all that will be available. Trying to make way for some new things we're coming out with in 2020. And some sizes of the Hate shirts still remain. $5 per shirt goes to the Crusade for Children on the Hate shirts also. I'm only one guy. What more can I do? JimCornette.com. Do not make me come down your chimney on Christmas Eve, folks. Please do not. Get the orders in early so that I can have peace of mind and not a stroke. And I will service all of you. I promise. I will come down each and every one of your chimneys, just not on Christmas Eve. Oh, well, but
I don't know how to follow that up.
Well, how do you follow that?
Is there a cutoff date if you want to get it for the holidays, or is there a cutoff date where you're just not going to be doing any shipping for a week or so because of holidays or anything? Well,
that will not be until after Christmas, but basically, because of the week of NWA television and pay-per-view, December 14, 15, and 16, try to get everything in by the first part of December, folks, if you can. I will be mailing up until, what is it? Is it December 22nd? By that time, it's a fruitless task to get anything by Christmas. Whatever the cutoff is at the post office. 21, 22, whatever it is. After that, it ain't going to happen anyway. And I think a couple days before Christmas this year is a Sunday, so that throws grease in the mix. So get them in early. But I'm shipping shit as swiftly as shit can be shipped. Anyway, real quick, several people have been asking, am I going to be at WrestleCade in Winston-Salem this year, this Thanksgiving weekend? And the answer is no. Not because I don't want to be there, because the Midnight, Bobby, Stan, and Dennis are all going to be there. And I love the guys, Tracy Myers and Tim Blaze that runs the event. It's a great show. I'm past the point of traveling on Thanksgiving weekend anymore. So I had to decline the invitation, but I encourage everybody else that's going to be anywhere around Winston-Salem to go, because it's going to be fun and the Midnight are going to be there. And have you heard about the event? And we can publicize this, and I'll tell you it's great why in a second, but have you heard about the event that they're doing in tribute to Bobby Eaton in Knoxville in December?
I have. I've been seeing various things for the last few weeks on social media about it.
Well, Matt Sigmund of the Heat Seekers is putting it together. And basically, it's a live event, matches, and where the website is don'ttellbobby.com. And what they're doing is they're putting together a bunch of Bobby's friends, and I would be there, but I have to be at the NWA pay-per-view. I have like two bookings in a 6-month period, and both of them are on the same day. But on December 14th in Knoxville, don'ttellbobby.com, they're putting on this event. Not only is it a live event, but also it's going to be on Fight TV on pay-per-view. And it's a tribute to Bobby Eaton. Bobby gets the entire gate. Everybody's donating their time in honor of him. Bobby gets the money from Fight TV, and he doesn't know about it. He thinks he's going to just an autograph signing, and that's why they're marketing it as Don't Tell Bobby and hashtag Don't Tell Bobby, and the tickets are at don'ttellbobby.com because he doesn't know. And the beautiful thing is, unless somebody he speaks to, either in person or on the phone, tells him, he will not know because he don't get on the fucking internet. And I'm so jealous of him. He leads a normal life before all this shit happened to us. And so anyway, they're going to take him as if he's going to just an autograph session, and then they're going to surprise him with the entire festivities. So if you can be there in Knoxville, December 14th, and go to don'ttellbobby.com, it's cool. And I just, like I said, I envy. Can you imagine? Do you remember what it was like before we didn't know everything all the fucking time?
I used to be so excited for the mail. When will I get a newsletter? When will I find out what happened a week ago in the wrestling business? How do you think Bobby's going to react?
Oh, I mean, he'll probably shit, but he's so low key, he won't put it. I mean, he'll probably get a tear in his eye, but he won't like put it over like, oh my gosh. He's like, I just don't know what to say. Because Bobby usually doesn't know what to say. No, I kid. Anyway, I will be in Atlanta on December 14th, 15th, and 16th, despite some people's best efforts. As last I heard, I'll be there for the NWA pay-per-view and television tapings. Day 1, the pay-per-view is sold out. Day 2, the taping is sold out. By now, day 3 is probably sold out. I don't know because I haven't checked in a while. But if you can, it's a fun thing to do. At the GPB, the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios in Atlanta, you can go to @NWA on Twitter or NationalWrestlingAlliance.com and get all the information. Of course, the YouTube show NWA Power debuts every Tuesday evening on YouTube at 6:05, but you can watch it whenever you want. And I'm on it, so I encourage you to do so. And we are going to attempt to maintain the tradition of studio wrestling in today's modern environment, where every match on every television program is supposed to be the main event from WrestleMania 17. I've watched so much wrestling over the last day and a half, Brian. I'm bleeding. My eyes are bleeding.
I'm right there with you, unfortunately.
But that's I think why everybody's been attracted to NWA Power. It's different. It's old-fashioned studio wrestling with young guys. And it's not so tightly choreographed, and we do slip up and say things that are not for polite society every once in a while. But some people have said I should critique the NWA shows, and I'm like, what? Here, my problem with that is almost like that's like having Meryl Streep do her own reviews of her own movies, right? In some kind of way. I've always shied away from that if I'm on something, just for that reason, not because I don't want to knock it. But we may have to, with a critical eye, analyze the NWA Power. But I'll tell you what, my first critical eye is it's easy to fucking watch, and it doesn't last forever. That's a positive these days. Anyway, I said my eyes are bleeding. I've watched so much wrestling, my eyes are bleeding, my brain is numb. I'm either turning into a zombie or perhaps a werewolf, Brian. Maybe because I feel like I'm getting hair on the back of my fingers and my knuckles, and my eyebrows are starting to look like Wild Bull Curry. But fortunately, I know how to fix that.
How do you fix that?
Thank you. Thank you, Ed McMahon, for that straight line just a beat too late. I'll tell you how I do it with our fine friends at Manscaped, because Manscaped can clear the most brutal stretch of Amazonian rainforest that is set beneath your posterior, in between your cracks and crevices, down south of the back 40, wherever you need your patches cleared, Manscaped can clear them. And we've talked, and everybody in the cult has now fallen in love with Manscaped, because I guess we got a bunch of hairy fuckers out there.
You know what? One of the listeners actually just messaged me the other day. I won't say who because he's a wrestler. And he said, that Manscaped stuff is for real. And I said, yeah, it really is. That's why we're talking about it on the air.
Even if it wasn't for the lotions and potions and the pH balanced, crop mop ball wipes and all of the stuff that the cologne, the stuff that makes you smell good, and the lotion that makes you slicker than sperm on a gold tooth, as they say, the big thing for me, I mean, I don't go anywhere without this. It's in my bag if I leave the house. The fucking lawnmower 2.0. It's a handheld rechargeable. You don't have to plug it in the fucking wall. You just recharge it. It's got a thing. You can recharge it from your fucking computer or whatever. And it's a trimmer, and you can do your sideburns. You can do your eyelashes. You can do your everything from the neck down, but you cannot nick yourself. You will shed not one drop of blood. You will not become a crimson mask. It will not look like you've had a blowjob from a zombie. I'm telling you, it's impossible to fucking hurt yourself with this thing. So anyway, the folks at Manscaped are on our good list. And for Christmas, jump in on it. If you happen to be of the female persuasion and you're listening and you've got a hairy member of the male persuasion that you're trying to, because mildew does set in sometimes if it gets gone too far, right? So get a Christmas present and make your own life happier. Whatever the case, don't use the same old sharp barbed wire implements. Use this non-nick, won't snag your nuts, precision tools for your family jewels, the Manscaped package. You can go to manscaped.com and enter the promo code JCE and get 20% off plus free shipping and one of those cool travel bags. And you get all this stuff. I mean, get the whole thing. Get the whole package, and you will smell, feel, and look as fucking smooth as a hard-boiled egg. Well, you won't look like a hard-boiled egg, I guess. You might not feel like a hard-boiled egg, but you'll be as slick as one.
I have to say, that lawnmower, that thing is the best electric razor I've ever had. I've been using that on my face for, the last few weeks since I got the Manscaped package, and I've never had an electric razor that efficient. Like, you don't have to worry about it, and it's so good.
But it's not an electric razor. Because it's more like a barber trimmer, because you can also, you can trim your hair. I trim up over my ears with it. You can do anything with it. It's not like the old fashioned. Vince had one of those. Vince McMahon in his limousine would be sitting there. He'd have his big booking book, like the big books I've showed, like on the documentaries I've done, Vice and Kayfabe commentaries, whatever. He'd have that on his lap in the seat. And he'd have his pencil in one hand, and he'd be looking at his booking book. And with the other hand, he would have one of those big chrome. Remember in the old holiday ads when Santa Claus rode the fucking shaver down the hill? You're not old enough.
I know what you're talking about. Yes, I do.
That's how I knew Christmas was coming every year. Well, anyway, he had this big fist-sized thing, and he's gouging into his face. JR, you say it's like he was attacking his beard. He would gouge that electric razor over and over it, and he just keep shaving the same places over and over to make sure he didn't miss one fucking hair. He was going to be goddamn smooth, right? You don't have to do that. With this thing, you just, and it's quiet. If you're in a hotel room, people don't think you're using the Diddlator Mach 3 on yourself. It's quiet. Those barber shears sound like a goddamn jackhammer. Anyway, manscaped.com.
Promo code?
JCE. You have it. All right, let's see what else we got. Wait a minute. I got all kinds of notes. I got pads of notes because, of course, they had to send it to me on Twitter. But I would have seen it anyway, because guess what I did? Not even knowing what was going to happen. Guess what I did the other day? I'm flipping through, like I don't watch wrestling. I just flip through. I'm flipping through the guide, right, to look and see what's on TV. And I see coming up in 15 minutes is Impact Wrestling on Access. And I said, all right, I'm going to record this so I can zip through the commercials, but I'll watch this and see what the fuck's going on. And I'll do it tomorrow or whenever. I can't even remember what day the thing's on. So by the next day, before I'd watched it, we'd seen on Twitter, guess who took a dick flip? The world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock, took a dick flip from Dick Boy. And of course, that's what they tweeted out as a part of the promotion. Watch our program. We have former UFC legends being thrown around by a guy's dick. That's how they advertised. They were proud of it, first of all. But of course, everybody said, what? I have always liked Ken Shamrock as a person and as a performer. I thought he was a good wrestler. He was obviously a good UFC fighter. He blended the two well. He had personality. He was good in the WWF. And, I guess at this point, you've just got to reconcile yourself sometimes with people disappointing you. But I respect Ken. I don't want to. I watched it. Then after the fact, I watched the whole thing. It was obvious he was taking some marks, whichever one. I don't know. Maybe they all chipped in for his payoff. Maybe Ryan put some in, and the marks that booked this fucking thing put some in. I don't know what Don Callis's fucking thought process may have been on this. Because I always thought Don had his shit together. But Ken did it for the money. And I mean, and I guess if anybody can go ahead and say, well, fuck, it's all bullshit anyway. It's a guy who really was real, but still it's disheartening. But more important than just everybody getting me to cut a promo on Ken Shamrock for taking the dick flip and what does this world come to, let's examine the fact on this television program that is just like another zombie apocalypse again has come back from the dead. They can't put a stake through Impact's heart. In one shape or form, it will continue on. They can chop off its arms and its legs. It'll crawl to you on its belly like a reptile. It's just a flesh wound. But now they have gone from pretty much cable access television on the Pursuit channel to a network that now, since its HDNet days, has grown exponentially, is noted for having New Japan Wrestling on, has had MMA, has for the past several years has come to be a home for somewhat, would you say, Brian, of the hardcore fans that want to watch athletic wrestling?
Specifically for New Japan, yes.
and then also for mixed martial arts and, et cetera, combat sports. So they debut on Access, and they are able to retain the services of a guy who not only was a former main event guy in the World Wrestling Federation, but was a UFC champion, is a combat sports mixed martial arts legend. It has a name in mainstream sports as close to anybody that's probably, I don't know if Moose was a big name football player, but they're not that long on their roster of mainstream sports stars. They've got him on their program on Access TV, and instead of trying to do some kind of something serious or some kind of cross promotion, or if he didn't want to have a real match because you couldn't pay him enough money, but he'd go jack around, have him do an interview or intermingle with some main event guys, something that you'd like to get over, something that you might want to get some mainstream attention to, or just somebody you want to give a rub to in a positive business atmosphere or business way, instead of, hey, like a bunch of kids on the playground calling attention to ourselves by pulling our pants down and wingling our ding-a-ling around. We can tell everybody that Joey Ryan's going to wrestle Ken Shamrock, and everybody will wonder what's going to happen to Joey's dick. And we can get people to watch us that way because we have nothing else whatsoever apparently to offer in our minds. Nothing else to advertise. Just a freak show. Just we're going to have the guy that bites the heads off the live chickens at the county fair, and he's going to be in the ring with an actual legitimate athlete, celebrity who is past his prime but is taking our money to dignify this as long as he don't have to work too hard, which he didn't.
Desperate people do desperate things, and there's a reason why no one pays attention or cares about Impact. And there's a reason why it's become, name another promotion that you could probably get out of prison and go work for right away. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just like the last ditch place to go to if you have nowhere else to go. Let me read you something real quick, Jim, because I actually received this morning from a very high-ranking music industry executive who makes a lot of money and talks to me about wrestling because he likes wrestling. Watching Ken Shamrock, Joey Ryan match on Impact Wrestling. Couple of things. One, had to check that I didn't hit the remote in slow motion because of Ken Shamrock. Well, I don't want to rip Ken Shamrock here, but can you explain how a guy gets attached to another man's penis as a finishing hold? And then he wrote, it's almost like a spoof of the Attitude Era. Yeah, that's it. Well, that was the one impression they made. That's the problem with all this stupid shit. You know, obviously there are some morons out there that like this Joey Ryan shit, but you turn away anyone who wants to give you a chance. You turn away people who want to give you a chance.
Well, regardless of how you think about the dick spot, the point is that they had a name, a mainstream name on their program, and they chose to utilize him to help them by having a bunch of people gawk at him. As I mentioned to Dick Boy, when I slapped him again on Twitter here recently when he began running his pie hole again, and that just because that the two dogs fucking on the side of the road draw the amused, bemused, horrified, stunned, astonished gawking of a number of onlookers, does that mean that said dogs fucking are putting on a quality fucking performance? But then, so I had already, when I found out that this happened, I already had the show on tape, right? Just coincidincally. So I said, well, I'm going to watch and see what the fuck else they've got going on. Is there anything that could have changed my opinion of this program? So I watched Outlaw Wrestling on Access TV, which is basically what they've done. They opened up with Sami Callihan and his drunk bum cohorts in OVE, which is, you know, when you talk about really tough, violent places in the United States of America, you can talk about South Central LA. You can talk about Hell's Kitchen, New York. You can talk about Ohio. What the fuck? These fucking guys. And I'm sorry. I've met the Christ guys, and they're nice enough fellows, but they are pudgy, dumpy, small, unimpressive, tattooed up, pierced bums. That's what they look like. They wandered in off the street, which later on in this program is what they did. They wandered into the building, apparently off the street, but they opened the program with Callahan and his OVE backup drinking beer and slobbering it all over themselves with a bunch of other marks wearing T-shirts out in the parking lot. You couldn't tell who the wrestlers and who the fans were. And he's their world champion. And I've stood next to the guy when he was in New York, and Rich Bikini can verify this, when he was in New York on the roof of the building where we taped at the second night back in April, saying, oh, Jim, you know, they really believe this stuff with you and me on the internet. We could work together. I'm like, yeah, can you leave me alone? Cause I'd like to go get a fucking cheeseburger, pal. But he's 5'8". Maybe he's 200 pounds. He has no physical definition. He plays bad guy wrestler. He does. That is not his voice. The gravel voice, imitating Vince McMahon, introducing Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, is not his real voice. He tries so hard to puff his chest out. It looks like a banty rooster, and he tries to look imposing. You know, he gets heat in that kind of way. If he was an underneath guy, you know, sticking a chest out like he was somebody, but it basically, it's a group of short, dumpy, nondescript, tattooed fucks that look like the fans wandered in off street, and one of them is their world champion. And that's what they started the fucking program with. But at any rate, Moose wrestled Willie Mack, and Don Callis was doing color. I did not catch, nor did I try hard to catch, the play-by-play guy's name, because he sounded like another one of these stagey, you know, wrestling mark talking to another wrestling mark in their basement. And I use the word mark not in place of fan, but in place of mark. You can tell the terminology they use. He sounds like one. The match was okay, but they're in a building in Ontario that I'm sure Scott D'Amore got for them and probably sold out. But it was the same size as fucking Full Sail and looked 1/10 the size. It was dark, and I don't mean dark like Full Sail on purpose. I mean dark like Full Sail. We can't afford the lights. It was, the crowd was dead. The announcers rambled. And Moose and Willie Mack worked hard, and it didn't fucking really gel. And then there was some girls backstage talking, but we just came up on them, and you had to know who they were because they were all talking, and there was no announcer necessarily to fucking sort this out. And then one of the girls walks away and eavesdrops on some of the guys talking. And of course, it's obviously staged because then they do a 2-camera shoot to get a close-up reaction shot of the girl's face after she's overheard they don't know that she's, yeah. Then Michael Elgin, who I know from Ring of Honor, worked with Falaba. And this was 2 big guys having a big man match, and they worked very hard, and there was nothing necessarily wrong with it, except the people were blah. It was too long. They went through a break. They went even longer. They kicked out of everything. They went forever. And then Michael Elgin tapped him out.
What was his opponent's name?
Falaba. He's a big Samoan. I've actually met him a couple times. He's a good talent as a gimmick if he's in there with a smaller baby face. And Michael Elgin is a powerhouse and he does some great shit, but he would be better with they just had a styles clash. It just didn't come together. And then for some reason, they played a tape. They had more of Callahan, and his boys trying to play wrestler. And then they played a tape of Moose back in the 6-sided ring with Jeremy Borash doing announcing for the one round of the Grandmaster tournament, the flashback moment. I guess they needed to fill time. And then in a 2-hour show, this is what they did at the top of the hour. Basically, this is only an hour in. Here comes Joey Ryan versus Ken Shamrock. The pinhead play-by-play guy was making bad dick jokes and repeating them, in case you didn't hear him the first time. And basically, this Ken made a personal appearance to take these people's money and do this. He looks incredible. He's got abs and physically looks insane. But they circled and stalled around. They a clean break. Ken did a couple arm drags, stalled around. He went for the heel hook so that Dick Boy could get the ropes, stalled around. Ryan hit him with a drop kick and it looked like a potato. And then they did the dick spot. And then when they did the dick spot, suddenly Ken, after being thrown by the guy's dick, jumped up and clotheslined him twice and put the ankle lock on him and he tapped out. So the business goal of any match is to get one person in it over. At least. If you can get both, you're great. But one person should leave better than he came. Examine the logic of this. Ken Shamrock, world's most dangerous man, WWF star, gets thrown by the guy's dick. So people are already, well, this is bullshit. So we don't care anyway. But then if that was to be used to get Joey Ryan over, then Ken Shamrock pops up and immediately a 55-year-old man clotheslines a guy twice and ankle locks him and he taps out. So Ryan gets beat. So why did Shamrock even take the fucking bump? Why did any of this happen? Because they just thought it would be funny and it would attract people's attention on Twitter so that they could be laughed at, but they're so desperate that this is the only way they can attract attention. It didn't get either guy over. Ken Shamrock looks like an idiot, and Joey Ryan tapped out. Boom. There you go. And so did I, because they had an hour left of the program, and I did not stay for it, because that's all I needed to fucking see. If they don't take their own show any more serious than that, why the fuck am I spending my time watching it? So good day to you people. I did say good day. There. Are you still there?
I am. I can't believe you watched that. I never would.
I hate to be elitist, But I'll tell you what I should have done was I should have put the Impact show on the TV screen, but then I should have been listening to my Raycon earbuds.
Now that's a great idea. I like that. I endorse that.
Because that way I wouldn't have had to go through all of the fucking rotten soundtrack I had to go through to that. Although the people did not pop, by the way. But anyway, Raycon, the company that was started by Ray J and celebrities all over the known world.
You know, I got to stop you. Because of you, I've had that Bill Saluga bit in my head for weeks now. You could call me Ray, or you could call me Jay, or you could call me RJ. Just, oh.
Or you could call me Ray J, or you could call me Raymond J, or you could call me Raymond J. Johnson, or you could call me Raymond J. Johnson Jr., but you doesn't got to call me Johnson. Well, I'll tell you what, Ray J, I will call you Mr. J, because I don't know what his last name is, because I respect you for coming up with these earbuds. Raycon earbuds have changed the game in wireless earbuds. These things, they fit your ear. They have different sizes. You got a small, a little petite ear, or you got a medium-sized ear. You got one of those big cauliflower ears. They could have fitted Paul Bosch and Strangler Lewis. Oh, Raycon.
Wow, that's
I'm telling you. Because when you get the whole big wingding, the big soup to nuts platter, you have so many interchangeable sizes that it's incredible. And they sound great. Stacy loves them. You love them. Of course, I don't know how they work because they're wireless and they're not plugged into anything, but I understand that's what people want these days.
Suzanne loves them. She took my second pair.
Yeah. Well, you greedy bastard. Second pair.
They're mine. What do you mean greedy bastard? They were sent to me.
You don't need more than one.
I need one for
your lovely wife. One
for I could leave in the car. One I could leave up in the office.
Oh, for heaven's sake. So lazy. Well, all right then, folks, get 3 because you can get 3 or more and save money because we get you a deal. Once again on the Raycon earbuds. No wires. Sound great. Half the price of the major names, as they say. You go to Buy Raycon. That's BUY. BuyRaycon.com/JCE. And you will get anywhere from 15 to 20% off. Because they told us 15%, but people keep getting 20. So we carry a lot of weight. But if you've been thinking about it, don't sleep. After you get off JimCornette.com, go to BuyRaycon.com/JCE and save some money. They're stylish, they sound good, and they're good for you. They increase brain function.
I can't believe you think they would fit into Paul Bosch's ear and Strangler Lewis. Who had the worst cauliflower ear? I mean, Bruno had a bad one. Paul Bosch was legendary, obviously, because he did the commercial for IW Marks.
Pat Malone.
Really? Huh. The Green Shadow.
The Green Shadow, Pat Malone, had a cauliflower ear. He could actually... I mean, everybody knows what a cauliflower ear looks like with, the ones they see on the guys on TV or whatever, but this ear had gone completely it was completely round, and he could take a regular toothpick, and he could hold one end of it, and he could stick the toothpick in his ear hole all the way until his fingers touched his ear, and still wouldn't go all the way into where it hurt.
Oh, my God.
Yes. And he would do that on some occasions, just to show you. I don't know if Raycon could have fit Pat Malone, the Green Shadow.
That would have been the big test. But check him out today. Check him out today.
Yes. Well, thank you for that full-throated endorsement. Surprised we ever get any fucking advertisers around here with your goddamn lackluster delivery. Hey, speaking of lackluster, I don't know what this fucking segue was going to be, but it's the next topic I wanted to talk about. Tell me more about Jordan Miles and his T-shirt.
That's another interesting story I kind of followed from the periphery. Apparently, Jordan... Did you ever work with him before he was Jordan Miles?
Well, here's the thing. I believe I've met him. It wasn't very long. Delirious, Hunter Johnston, discovered he was ACH, right? And I guess it stood for Attitude, Charisma, and Heart, but it stood for like Albert C. Hardy or whatever his name is. But anyway, he had found him, was going to bring him to Ring of Honor. He said he was phenomenal. That's why I know I saw a tape. I believe I saw him in person. I've, agreed he was very athletic. And that's the last I remember. I think if he did come in, or eventually when he did come in, I was already gone. So I do not know him that well personally, but apparently he does tend to make an impression wherever he goes.
Yeah, and I guess the story is that a T-shirt was produced by WWE for him, and the T-shirt says his name, Jordan Miles, and it's in what appears to be a mouth, and the words look like teeth, and it looks very, very similar, frighteningly similar, to a very racist image that we've all seen that has gone around that goes back to the minstrel days. I mean, it's a old image that's been around for a very long time.
And wait a minute, for our younger fans, he didn't say minstrel. The old minstrel shows with the blackface, like the Virginia governors and politicians and things. And I know people are already, they're getting the popcorn waiting for Cornette to comment on a racial situation. But here, first of all, I know who ACH was, but I didn't know who Jordan Miles was. So I'm reading this, and I'm like, Jordan Miles flips out over this T-shirt design. And I think it was on PW Insider. And there's a picture of the design. So, of course, I said, well, it looked like some cheap-ass, thrown-together slapdash shit like WCW did in the early 90s. It was just the guy's name in a logo, a smiley logo. And I said, well, it's a shitty shirt, but goddamn, it's some underneath guy, complaining they're doing a shirt for him at all, right? And he's going fucking crazy. Then when I found out he was black, it made more sense, because then I've read the comments. Okay. But then apparently there's a story that the way that they were marketing, he's a babyface, and the announcers were saying on NXT, or wherever he was on, that, he's got $1 million smile, the old Dusty Rhodes line. I go, my $1 million smile, baby. So I guess that's what they were trying to play off.
And I believe from what I read, again, I don't know what's true and what isn't, because I haven't followed this closely, but from what I read, WWE is alleging that he approved the art. And I think he was saying that he saw the art on something other than a black background. Well,
yeah, it was on a gray shirt. And then he probably was like, well, fuck, this is just some cheap ass shit, but it didn't look so bad because, but here's once again, I don't know if the response fit that's the response over a rotten T-shirt. Possibly make a phone call internally, but this guy melted down and was ranting and raving about and here's where he got sideways with me, because then he called Jay Lethal and Uncle Tom. And of course, I happen to love Jay Lethal. But then I started thinking, wait a minute, didn't he have a problem? Didn't he call Ring of Honor racist? Didn't he have a problem with them when he left?
Did he? I don't know that.
I think there was some issue there, or there was some complaint there. But he's calling Jay Lethal and Uncle Tom, who doesn't even work for the WWE and was not in that conversation. So the guy blew up over the fucking T-shirt instead of making a phone call and saying, hey, think we need to fucking refigure this. Is he trying to get fired? He wants to go to All Elite. What is that? Because when you say shit like that, especially in his position, obviously you're wanting to get fired, are you not? Does he imagine that they would bring him back after that?
Well, I don't know, because also it puts them in a weird position. How do you fire him if all this is going on? I think you have to answer that. And I think a lot of people, similar to what you just said before, they were seeing his tweets, and there were a lot. And obviously, you're thinking he's emotional about it, and you're kind of on his side. And then when all of a sudden he attacks Jay Lethal, you're like, okay, so wait a minute, there's more to this story.
Yeah, and then he's going off on other fucking people. Yeah. And then he's, further this, and then people who've shared the locker room with him start saying, well, just calm the fuck down. So he T-shirted himself right out of the business.
But am I right, though? Could they fire him now? How could you fire him? If he said that you guys made this shirt
for coming out and slandering the company, I'd say, look, just because my T-shirt designer's a dipshit, if all you would have done is fucking complain about it, we'd have they didn't sell it, we'd have changed it. But instead, you want to go on a goddamn crusade and slander us. I guarantee you that nobody in that company, it's like you see all the time, there's billboards of logos and shit that looks like a dick in somebody's mouth. Or the fucking convenience store down in Oklahoma, K-U-M, come and go.
What?
Yes, it's a chain. I've got the T-shirt. You see this shit all the time, that it looked like a good idea to somebody, but then everybody else in the world sees something completely different once they fucking bring it out. It happens. I refuse to believe that anybody in the WWE specifically made a shirt that they knowingly thought was racist for a fucking guy in NXT that's apparently not even on fucking television right now, a lower level fucking guy. No. Maybe some other fucking outlaw mud show company, but no. And stuff goes through a number of people up there. I know for a fucking fact. They might do bad shit like Chili McFreeze, come up with bad ideas, but they don't do obviously racist shit. So, because they're a publicly traded company, as I've been reminded on a number of occasions. So they just did it because they're playing off the guy, the commentator saying the guy's got a smile and he's a baby face. And then they put it on a black shirt, and then this guy blows up and it becomes a fucking deal. Jesus Christ. They just had a bunch of their employees delayed in Saudi Arabia. And they're not crying as much as this guy over a fucking T-shirt. I think I'd rather take the fucking zero chance of being beheaded and being insulted by my T-shirt being sold than being sent to Saudi Arabia.
So you're saying you don't think this T-shirt was any sign of a systematic racism permeating throughout the WWE and the entire wrestling industry, like Ring of Honor?
No, Thunderbolt Patterson. No, I do not. Fuck.
If I only had time.
If I only had time. And it's ridiculous at Ring of Honor anyway. And we'll get to, as a matter of fact, and poor Jay Lethal. We want to wish him well in a second. But first, if all of these stupid people on the internet and in life give you a headache, I got an idea for something you can rub on your fucking head, because I put it on the rest of my body and it makes all of those places feel good. So maybe we should just fucking do it on our heads too. And that's Omax and the Omax Cryo Freeze. And we've been talking about this. And Brian, you've become, you're mainlining this shit now, right?
I think this stuff's great. If you're someone who has been an athlete, if you're someone who's played a lot of sports, whether you're currently playing sports or have in the past, this stuff is great. I've said it on the drive-thru. I played a lot of baseball. I threw a lot of pitches, a lot more than I probably should have. I use it on my shoulder because sometimes at night when I sleep, my shoulder gives me problems. Have had no problems in a few weeks. I use it on my knees after I play basketball a few times a week, and I've been able to bounce back. I really, really like this. I've used it frequently. I actually just reordered more because I've been using it so much. This stuff's great. I've really, really benefited so far from using it.
Well, it's the triple action pain relief. It's a roll-on like deodorant. You just roll it right on, so it's not messy. Blocks pain receptors, reduces inflammation, and improves muscle and joint flexibility. 100% natural and CBD powered. And I don't care. I have not thrown a lot of pitches. I've made a lot of passes, but I've not thrown a lot of pitches. But I have taken the finishing maneuver for every great wrestling star of the past 30 years. So at some point, especially during this part of the year, when it's getting cold and wet and rainy and miserable, as I mentioned on the drive-thru this past week, sometimes I'm on the couch in the recliner and I have to make the choice of whether my knees hurt so bad that I don't want to get up away from that television and go to the refrigerator and make that ham and cheese sandwich and get those white fudge covered Oreos. Well, I use this stuff on my knees and I can have my sandwich and my Oreos. And I skip back to the couch. And we've had a bunch of people, since we've been plugging this a couple times now, that have tweeted in and said they've ordered it, they felt better, first time in years, etc. So anyway, if you go to omaxhealth.com and enter the code JCE, you'll notice there's a pattern here. Then omaxhealth.com, JCE, you get 20% off. Not only the Cryo Freeze, but everything all over the site. omaxhealth.com, promo code JCE, and basically feel better. Get your aches out of all them places you got them in.
Have you applied any yet to your tennis elbow?
You know, my elbows are the only things that don't bother me. Believe it or not. But I did get tennis elbow one time. You want to know how?
I would love to know how.
Putting bookcases together. When I moved to Connecticut, I had to put bookcases together. I bought at Walmart instead of hauling a bunch of things up there. To put all my books in, and I screwed so many of those screws in by hand, I got tennis elbow. Well, if I'd have had cryo freeze then, I wouldn't even remember that because it would have made the pain go away, the pain and inflammation, baby.
Plus, it smells good. That menthol is just a super dose of menthol.
All right. Anyway, speaking of how about a super dose of mercury? Joey Mercury, my man. I love you, Joey. Joey Matthews was here in OVW, and we were just talking about him, answered a question on the drive-thru, I think, here not long ago. He was the driving force, the brains behind the team of M&M. Him and Johnny Nitro, John Morrison, and Melina, when they were in OVW, he came up with these ideas for these outfits. They had the full-length fur coats. They had the entrance with the paparazzi and the fucking music that was cool, and they looked just so modern, right? And they took them up there and they used them for a while. I thought they should have pushed them farther, but their tag teams had a certain level at that point. But anyway, I've been a fan. Joey's been around the wrestling business since he was a teenager, and he's devoted his life to it. And he knows and will admit he's made a few mistakes, but I've always enjoyed being around him, working with him. And so I feel like I identify with what happened to him recently. And I was mentioning to you when we were off the air this past week, we were talking about it. It was 7 years. It was Halloween week. It was the first weekend of November of 2012 when I just melted down in Ring of Honor, right? That TV taping in Bell Vernon in the unheated ice rink, with the no pipe and drape for the 5 hours of TV, with the Steve Corino was injured and down and nobody was there in the office and the whole 9 yards. I melted down. I'm screaming out in the back parking lot. I'm going to choke the fucking life out of Greg Gilliland, the office manager. And, basically, boom, I'm going to have a heart attack. And that's when I decided. When I got back home that week to Louisville, I didn't leave town for 4 months. I went on a diet. I lost 20 pounds. And tried to wring my brain out, as the big cat would say. And that was basically, as we all know, over Greg the office boy. And I saw Greg, and I told this story on the experience here this past April at the Crockett Cup. It was a joint promotion between the NWA and Ring of Honor, and using the Ring of Honor television equipment, which they had finally gotten years after I departed. And I saw Greg, and he stuck his hand out, and I stuck my hand out, and I shook his hand, and I said, Greg, it worked out well for the both of us. I said, I'm doing better than I ever have doing my own thing, and I didn't have a heart attack or a stroke. I said, and look at you, he was in a suit. I said, look at you, you're in a suit, you're running the whole thing, and I didn't strangle you. So it worked out good for both of us. And we exchanged a few witty pleasantries and then went on our separate ways. And 7 years later, another wrestling guy has had enough of the guy wearing the tie. Greg's the guy I had to talk Charlie Haas out of knocking out. I went to him and he laughed at me. Like I said, Charlie Haas is going to knock you out. You talk to him that way again. He laughed. I said, you can laugh. I said, I'm serious. He will knock you out. I'll fire him, but you'll still be unconscious. And the ring crew hated him, and everybody hated him, and everybody hated to deal with him because you get a 20-something-year-old guy, he's 30-something now, and you put him in charge of shit, especially people that are not used to having civilians in charge of them, and he has no humbleness. He doesn't know what he doesn't know, and he won't admit what he doesn't know, and he wants to tell people what he thinks he knows. So now, 7 years later, almost to the week, almost to the day, over in England, apparently, Joey Mercury blows up because, just like I did in Bell Vernon, one of the guys is injured. In this case, is Jay Lethal, broke his arm. I'm looking around for people responsible, and they've all left. Apparently, Greg was either pre or post nap, according to the Twitter from Joey Mercury. when he was looking for him to inform him one of the guys was down. Apparently it was the same basic type of treatment that they were doing then, they've still done now. And Joey Mercury has melted fucking down and is maligning, i.e. telling the truth about his relationship with Greg Gilliland of Ring of Honor in incredibly detailed ways. Would you not say that's incredibly detailed, if still a bit mysterious, incredibly detailed at the same time?
Yeah, I didn't fully understand everything Joey was saying at times.
He's doing it in quite an interesting fashion, but yeah. He even put pipe and drape in one of the fucking emails or one of the Twitters. When he called him, he's not a management, he's boy management instead of man. But yeah, is what happens when you push us wrestling folks too far. Especially when you're an accountant with a bad haircut. And to just look at Greg, he's a Republican. You can just see it all over his face. He's the epitome of a young guy that's still a Republican.
I saw Joey put out, were they text messages? Because then eventually Greg was stop putting out my text messages, and I saw that text message too.
Yeah, his Twitter is Joey in Retrograde. At Joey in Retrograde. You can find it, I guess, that way. But anyway.
Did you see the other wrestlers come out to support him?
Well, yes. Yeah, because they've all been living with it. And we want to say get well to Jay Lethal, because I hate to hear, but at least apparently a broken arm. Well, it's better than like tearing an ACL or something. That's a huge reconstructive surgery. The broken arm, you can put a cast on it, and hopefully he'll be back soon. But any injury like that is not good. So I hope Jay's okay. And no thanks again. That weekend, Gary Jester had taken off as soon as the last bell rang because he'd been there since 3:00 and he was tired and wanted to find a Starbucks. And Ross, the merchandise weasel, had left with all the merchandise money because he'd been there all day and he was miserable because he hated Greg. And Ross, the merchandise weasel, wasn't even stealing from the company yet. That wouldn't come till later when the Sinclair fired him for selling stock under the table. And Greg had driven Joe Koff back to the Pittsburgh airport. So it left me and Delirious with a fucking ambulance loading a fucking guy up, and good luck. So I know how Joey felt, whatever the case. But this did bring up an interesting name from the past, because when I was made aware that Joey was tweeting all this stuff and I looked at it, I said, holy shit, I just tweeted back to Joey. It looks like at Joey in Retrograde, and I have things in common, ... Apropos out of fucking nowhere. Guess who decides to respond to that tweet that is all that was said in that tweet? Guess who decides to respond?
A very tiny man.
A very, very tiny turnip-eating man. Austin Aries. Out of nowhere. Every once in a while, he's like a slow-motion whack-a-mole. Every once in a while, he will pop up and say something to me on Twitter when referring to something that had nothing to do with him or wasn't referring to him or he wasn't included in or whatever, just out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. And then I have to whack him back down because he hadn't learned by now that he's a fucking putz. So he suddenly responds to this with, well, you were part of that culture, Cornette, and you were carny, and you were stealing from the boys and telling us that we weren't allowed to have an opinion and this and that and the other. I said, you shut up, you whiny little turnip-eating fucking bitch. You fucking little whiny turnip-eating bitch. Number one, I hadn't thought about Austin Aries in a while, but I assume that everybody knows the story of how miserable he is. But since we've got so many new listeners, I think they might not have heard this story of when we had to boot him out of Ring of Honor. They might not have heard the story about how miserable a person Austin Aries is. So I thought, you little turnip-eating cocksucker, you, who wants to fucking call me a goddamn liar and a carny and a thief, let me explain something. First of all, Austin Aries, you weren't even around when Sinclair was in charge, when the Sinclair era started, because we had already weeded you out. weeded you, and you're whining and you're griping and you're complaining and you're cancerous poison in the locker room out. Because what happened was when Gabe Sapolsky was booking Ring of Honor, the last time that he split with Austin Aries and stopped using Austin Aries, he said he was never going to book him again because he was such a pain in the ass. Because he always wanted to be the world champion. He didn't want to do a job. He was always griping about something. He was always complaining about something, and he was always spreading it around to the boys in the locker room. But then when I went back to Ring of Honor in 2009, Kerry Silken had called me. Adam Pearce was the booker. And it wasn't long after I started. As a matter of fact, it was the same night. It was the same night that I started in New York. They brought Austin Aries back because Adam had known Aries for a while. They'd been in Chicago together. He thought, certainly he'll work with me. You know, I can deal with him, whatever the case, right? So Aries comes back and is immediately put into the mix for the world championship because I've never said that Austin Aries couldn't work. He's a great little performer. Problem is, he's never going to be a main event superstar in a big company, and he can't admit it. But he's an excellent performer, and he has great matches. And he fit the suit in Ring of Honor because the champions weren't that big anyway. So he immediately got into the mix with the Roderick Strongs and Davey Richards and etc. But then, as time went on, Austin Aries dropped out of the, as you go back and look in the 2009, 2010 era, go back and look at some of the results. Austin Aries drops out of the world title picture and starts managing. You might remember this, Brian. I brought you around to some of the shows at that point. Starts managing Kenny King and Rhett Titus, the All Night Express.
I remember one of the first shows you brought me back to after you went back, because I had not been to Ring of Honor since like 2006, the last time you had been there, was the main event was one of the best matches I've ever seen live. Tyra Black versus Austin Aries for the Ring of Honor title in the Manhattan Center.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And then I hung around afterwards and I got to see just how miserable the guy was. He was in his suit walking around, he was miserable. I mean, you could see it. But yeah, I saw it, and fantastic wrestler. I remember saying to you, this guy should be pushed. He's so great. And whoever was next to you, I can't remember, they're like, making the noise. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, but then he faded from the title picture. He's still with the company, but he's managing Kenny King and Rhett Titus. And about this time, and I'll give some Ring of Honor business background. About this time is when Adam Pearce got fired as the booker. And we've told this story before because he had finally had enough because there were factions in the company, and he sent Kerry Silken, the owner, an email. And he led with basically, first of all, fuck Sid and Ross. Ross was Ross Abrams, the merchandise weasel, and Sid was Sid Eck, the guy in the office.
The Dick Cheney of Ring of Honor.
The Dick Cheney of Ring of Honor. Emphasis on the dick. And here's the thing. Quick primer in this. Sid was really the general manager of the company. He was the guy that ran the day-to-day operations. Kerry was the owner, and Kerry was the financial backer. It was Sid's job, and he did it very well, to wheedle and cajole and connive deals on buildings, deals on chairs, deals on advertising, preserve Kerry's money. As the boys didn't like him, nobody liked Sid. He came off like a fucking dick. When he met the Sinclair people, they thought he was a dick. All the boys thought he was a dick. Well, because he was a dick.
Don't we thought he was an idiot, too. He was also one of the dumbest people I've ever spoken to about business when I had to call him a few times. He was a complete idiot.
But I think he was a bigger dick than he was an idiot. I think sometimes he just wanted to be an idiot because it served his purposes. But nevertheless, the point is, he was the guy in charge of trying to run this as inexpensively as possible on Kerry Silken's dime, and that's what he would do. And the wrestlers didn't like him because he put them in 6 and 8 in a fucking room, a hotel room for a night at the airport somewhere. Anyway, everybody was the wrestling side of the operations was taking sides against the office side of the operations, which was Sid and Ross. And unfortunately, as Adam learned and has since gone on and prospered and everybody's made up, he wasn't going to win that fight because Sid was the guy that was running the fucking thing and was saving Kerry a lot of money. The problem was he could only save Kerry money on the business side, the building rentals, the advertising, the fucking trucks, the fucking crews, the whatever the fuck. He didn't have anything to say about the wrestling side. I found out that Gabe had not really shared a lot of information on his thought processes and how to book and pay for wrestlers with Kerry. And Adam had not been there very long. It was basically it was his first booking job, so he was just going along with what had been done. So when Adam was fired and Kerry named Delirious the new booker, Kerry also asked me to get more involved with, from a wrestling side standpoint, how can he save some money? Because, see, here's one thing Austin Aries said, well, you're trying to help him steal from the boys. None of the boys got stole from because all the boys were on a guarantee. And they got their guarantee. They got paid regardless of whether Kerry Silken made any money or not. The only one that was really, Kerry Silken was on a guarantee, all right. It was guaranteed he was going to lose money. We just weren't sure how much. So Kerry asked me to figure out how he could save some money from the wrestling side of things. And one of the things that we reviewed at that point was that Austin Aries had come up with an idea and put himself in an angle where he is the manager of Kenny King and Rhett Titus. He's not wrestling, he's managing. He also happens to be, by $50, the highest paid talent on the roster. So immediately we've got the world's highest paid manager. And also, Kerry Silken also came to me and said, can you and Delirious please talk to Austin Aries? Because he is always complaining. He's always griping. He's making the guys in the locker room miserable. He's saying things, the company is doomed. Sid's a crook. They're doing all things the wrong way. They're stealing from us. They'll never get over this way. It's only a matter of time before we close down. If they do things my way, blah, blah, blah. So that's when, after an HDNet TV taping, Delirious and I sat down with Austin Aries and explained to him that now that Hunter was the booker and I was being asked to take a more active role, that if he had troubles or concerns or problems with the office or however he was being treated or whatever his situation was, instead of sharing them with the rest of the locker room, he could come to us and we would do our best to address them. He didn't have to trust me. We didn't know each other that well, and I could give a shit, right? Because I had bigger fish to fry than one fucking malcontented wrestler. But Delirious was one of the boys. He's been working with Delirious. He's just come from the locker room with him. He knows what kind of guy he is. He's straight up and he's honest. He wasn't going to bullshit him. We were going to try to help the fucking guy with his issues. But I said, you cannot continue to be the highest paid guy on the roster and be making everybody miserable and spreading all this fucking doom and gloom. And that's when he uttered the immortal phrase, they don't pay me enough not to have an opinion, which is why that Ring of Honor ceased paying him to begin with. Here's something else in the conversation that I've not revealed before, but I will now, because it now a pattern has been established of how this little weasel Austin Aries goes around trying to milk and bilk everybody and then reflect or project what he does on other people, saying I'm a carny and I stole money from the guy. I spent money for a year and a half because I was in a position where I could do so to try to help get Ring of Honor. Number one, Kerry get him some of his money back, and number two, get Ring of Honor on real television, and number three, make him somewhat financially stable, which I was able to do. But I went in my own pocket because I believed in that project. And I got a job later on, and it was not the highest paid job I've ever had. And it wasn't about the money, it was about the product and trying to, at that time, save wrestling. So I take issue with his little weaselly, whiny mouth saying that. But also, to say I was carny. Here is what Austin Aries told me in Delirious. He said, well, he said, because he had arranged with Adam this angle where he would become a manager suddenly and not wrestle. And he told us, well, I took a bad bump a few months ago, and since then, my dick hasn't gotten hard.
Come on.
And because now I'm seeing a pattern, because I have never heard that ever before or since. So I have no idea whether that was a legitimate statement that he meant and it was coming out of his mouth in all good conscience, or whether he was just the most creative motherfucker that I've ever seen at trying to keep a spot where he's the highest paid guy on the roster and doesn't actually have to wrestle. But I sense a pattern, because when I think back, when I first went to TNA in 2006, guess who was there? Austin Aries. They called him Austin Starr. Little bitty superstar Billy Graham gimmick because he had the good arms then. He didn't become a fucking vegetarian pussy and deprive himself of meat, so he actually still looked halfway like a man back then. But he didn't like the gimmick, and he was always whining. Dutch Mantell told me, he said, that motherfucker over there will whine and gripe more than anybody, right? And pretty soon he was done with TNA. And here's the thing. He can also say, well, Cornette, you're toxic, and you get kicked out of everywhere, or you get fired, or nobody wants you around. Here's another one of his problems with me. I have always been in a position above him, wherever we've been. When we were in TNA, I was a television producer. I was working underneath Jeff Jarrett and Dutch Mantell directly. I was the on-camera authority figure for the entire company, and he was an interchangeable, whiny, malcontented member of the X Division. And he was phased out. When I was in Ring of Honor, I was brought in on behalf and by the owner of the company to expand their revenue or eliminate their fucking expenses as much as possible. And I was working with the entire company and attempting to make us, as a matter of fact, while he was still there, and this was still going on, I think the Sinclair thing had at least popped up as a possibility, but we had 2 or 3 other things that we were discussing. It was going to be either revenue or reduced expenses for Ring of Honor. And I didn't have time to deal with one fucking grumpy wrestler on the roster that could be replaced, especially when he was ungrateful that he was the highest paid guy and didn't appreciate it. And going around knocking the guy that was making him the highest paid guy, Kerry Silkin, because that's what he was doing when he was knocking the fucking company. And I wasn't in WWE with him. I've already main evented WrestleMania and worked directly with Vince McMahon himself. By the time that Austin Aries got to the WWE and they put him in developmental, and guess what? He didn't like his gimmick and he whined and griped. And I think they even made something of him of being a whiner and a griper out of his gimmick. And then fucking off he tootled because they were done with him when he was done. And then Gabe Sapolsky had said, I'm never going to book this pain in the ass again. And then Adam Pearce had, and then for the next booker, he'd become another pain in the ass, and for the owner. So he was done there. And most recently, Court Bauer actually called me earlier this year and said, well, I know you don't like the guy and you've had problems with him, but Austin Aries is going to be in Milwaukee. I said, why? He said, well, because he called me up and he said he went to high school 5 minutes away from our building and maybe he could sell a few tickets. So he's calling guys up, pulling the old, hey, you're close to my high school deal just to get booked. I said, well, let me know when he talks you out of one of his belts or talks you out of one of your belts to court. But anyway, so let's just be clear. Austin Aries never did anything for the boys. He's another one of these Eddie Mansfields. I did it for the boys. You did it for yourself. You're a whiny little bitch. You're always miserable. Don't call me a thief, motherfucker, because indirectly, I was putting money in your pocket because you always got your guarantee. I spent money to publicize some of those shows that you were on because with you on top, they weren't drawing that well when we were trying to make things look good for potential business partners. So indirectly, I helped finance you, you little prick, you little soft prick. And don't call me a carny because I had bigger fish to fry in the overall scheme of the business of a wrestling promotion than to deal with your whiny bitch ass. So don't pop up at me on Twitter either, motherfucker. And the last time I said something on Twitter about something, and he pops up with, well, I think it was the Sami Callihan thing. And he said, well, you avoided me and wouldn't make eye contact all fucking night. I wrote back, I said, I thought we were being professional by ignoring each other because I have nothing good to say to you and you have nothing good to say to me. And since you begged your way on the show, I figured I'd let Court have his fucking hometown boy. I didn't know we were supposed to relitigate our issues from 10 years ago in the MLW locker room because once again, I was working there as not only the color commentator, but part-time producer of television content directly under the boss of the company. And he was the guy that called and asked to be booked as a favor because we were near his high school. So why the fuck do I need to concern myself with one malcontented wrestler in the locker room?
Did he actually sell any tickets?
I don't think so. Not anybody that wasn't already going to be there to begin with. He's a Wisconsinite. Wisconsin, smell that dairy air. Anyway, so if for people who were perplexed or puzzled about why Austin Aries just decided to jump in on my tweet about Ring of Honor with Joey Mercury, it's because he's still butthurt and his pussy needs powdered and he needs somebody to hold him down and stick some fucking ground beef in his mouth, and maybe he'd grow some hair on his balls that Manscaped could shave off, or possibly he'd be able to get that erection that bad bump deprived him of about 11 years ago now.
Did he say what kind of bump it was that caused him?
I don't fucking know. He was just trying to bilk Kerry out of money for not working because he was miserable about nothing else going his way. And once again, for the people said Mr. Pot to Mr. Kettle, I deal with the bosses behind closed doors because I'm always in the company at a high level position. I'm not fucking some mooch in the locker room fucking spreading malcontentedness because I got nothing better to do and nobody's listening to me because I'm not important. Speaking of unimportant, what are you doing this week?
Ooh, another big unimportant week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. First, I want to thank all the listeners. October was another record-breaking month. We really do appreciate all the support, and we have a lot more things planned for the months ahead, so stay tuned. But real quick, let me mention all the shows you can check out. Ron Fuller's Studcast at fullerpod.com. John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight then and now at pwspod.com. Breaking Kayfabe with Bowdrin and Barry at bowdrinpod.com. Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam and Sean Goodwin at mcadampod.com. The Mid-South Wrestling Television Review with myself and Mike Mills at midsouthpod.com. And don't forget the brand new Mid-Atlantic Championship Podcast coming at you very, very soon at the end of November. You can subscribe right now, midatlanticpod.com. All shows available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast, iTunes, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, Spotify, all the usual motherfuckers. The shows are there. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, the mothership. I heard some complaints that you don't do the sonic blast or the sonic boom. I forget what you call it. That you don't do that anymore.
It's the sonic block. But then it was hurting my throat.
Oh, well, now especially you can't do it then because your throat's already in bad shape.
Because I had the 5 hours of hiccups.
Episode 100, I can safely say, stay tuned. There is something coming very, very soon. We are in the
wait a minute. You've just listed 18 shows. Do you ever sleep? What are you on goddamn methamphetamines or something?
Well, I don't sleep much, but that's never been a problem. I still have high energy. I also have some great people on the team like Lou Kippelman and Travis Heckel and Jake
Lou
Amar
Kippelman.
Yes.
Lou Kippelman.
Lightning Lou. Yes.
He used to own that upholstery store down the street from me.
What upholstery?
Right next to the apothecary shop.
What?
Kippelman's Upholstery.
Oh. Well, I will see if we can get a discount for you.
They turned it into a bakery.
Well, maybe we can't. Well, episode 100 has been baking for a while, and it will be delivered very, very soon. Stay tuned. Legitimately, editing has been going on all week. It's coming probably sooner than you think. But also, I want to make mention of one other thing.
You know, there's a line there. It's coming probably sooner than you think. I bet a number of our listeners have heard that.
Austin Aries. But listen, want to mention one other thing. 605 Super Podcast and Mothership t-shirts. Thank you so much to everyone who's been purchasing them. We have now sold out of stock for the third time in just 4 months. So we are restocking. If you've ordered shirts, give me at least a week. Unlike a lot of the other people in wrestling, very similar to Jim Cornette, I actually have inventory. I actually have the shirts here in the office and we mail them from here. We don't have to have some digital print shop. So,
wait a minute. Isn't that the only way to do it?
No, you and I may be the only two people in all of professional wrestling that do it this way. Most people go to a digital print shop and then you order it and then you have to wait for their accounting and you have to hope their accounting is okay. And then
that's no fun.
No, and the splits aren't even as good. They make less on the margins than we make.
I don't split anything with anybody.
Exactly. Well, the shirts are going to be back in stock with
I have things in my hand. You have things in your hand. We can confirm the quality of said items. And we can fulfill the envelopes and stuff the packages and ship the shit.
And throw a lot of bonus stuff in as I do with each package. And you can get your shirt today, tinyurl.com/superpodstore. And don't forget, go through the archive today, 605pod.com, available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast. And of course, you could also check out past episodes as well as episodes of other Arcadian Vanguard shows and the Jim Cornette archive on the Arcadian Vanguard video channel on YouTube. And I might as well mention right here, the Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette. It will be the very first thing that pops up. See the Travis Hickle artwork and check out all the full episodes, the clips, and the omnibus collections that are currently there. But also, don't forget, the Mothership!
Oh, goddamn it, now twice. A little much. How many million people watched our YouTube episodes here this last month?
Hold on one second. I don't have that stat in front.
Well, I mean, I don't mean exactly. It was several million people, just an incredible amount of people. We want to thank all you millions of people. And we don't want to thank some of you other people. Well, all right. Anyway, we're going to talk about these TV shows here real quick. Let's run through this. What would you like to talk about first?
I watched AEW first. What did you watch first?
I watched AEW again. I had to, because it's always the thought of a potential train wreck, right? So let's go through that first. Then. Let's do that. What did you think?
Overall?
God damn.
I thought that...
Just start the conversation.
I thought there were several really good things on the show. I thought the Cody promo was excellent. I mean, I can't say enough about it. And I'm someone who's been very critical of Cody in the past, especially when he came off as incredibly pretentious, but he's just killing it right now. And that promo was fantastic. And I thought the brawl at the end, there were elements I liked, there were elements I didn't like. They were obviously just trying to have a really hot ending leading into the pay-per-view and have everyone out there running around and doing their thing. But then there was a lot of stuff during the show I did not. It's not even I don't like it. I mean, the Dark Order, I just knew I could walk away. I knew I don't have to give them a chance again. I've given them enough chances. Now I'm going to go have dinner. The women's tag match, that really
let's go in order, because I said I wasn't going to do this and then ended up doing it, and you did too. We said, well, we'll just zip through and see what piques our interest, but we kind of watched the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's schizophrenic. It's a schizophrenic television program. And I went into a little bit more detail than I was going to, but from the top of the program, they're in Charlotte. The Bojangles Coliseum is the old Coliseum. So that is the scene, right? And that place, the fans in Charlotte, they love wrestling. They're going to be hot. Jim Ross does a nice voiceover and hands fucking Excalibur a nice little pitch, and he fucking mumbled about the ridiculous 3-team gets a chance at the fucking winner of the B-roll of the goddamn bronze medal in the tag team, whatever the fuck. They get so complicated, you don't know what the fuck's going on, and he's not the guy to convey it.
I got to say, this is the week Excalibur got on my nerves to the point where I had to press mute.
I got one coming. I got a great quote here in a minute, so stay tuned.
But it's his tone. It's like there's this weird, like when there's a movie, I can't even do it. It's just like, and it's a hip toss into an andre. Like it's just this weird tone.
No, that's what I call a Mark calling wrestling in his basement with another Mark. That's what it sounds like. You can tell they're not. You can tell not only is he not in professional television background, but he has his only wrestling background has come from the indie level modern Mark terminology that professional announcers do not use in wrestling. Anyway, why does Trent Beretta now have no last name?
I was wondering the same thing.
We're going to go through this quick. It's Pac versus Trent, and Trent's the one I like out of that group of dipshits, but now he's got no last name. So just Trent. What the Pac at least sounds like Cher, right? Trent sounds like Joe. But the babyface has two guys with him backing him up, and the heel is all alone. They're two great-looking athletic guys that look kick-ass, and they hit hard. I don't know why they had to spend so much time on the floor at the start of the match, especially its first match on the show. They're already on the floor. There's no count-out. These guys are athletic. They could have been in the ring doing some great wrestling spots instead of the same old shit that all the outlaw guys do because they can't work, right? Go fight around ringside. This fucking Pac, the dives, the drop kicks, etc., are amazing for his build. And when he puts a headlock on with his head and shoulders or his arms and shoulders, it looks great. And his shit is crisp. And here comes Trent, takes that fucking Ray Stevens bump in the corner, perfect, even though I almost knocked the cameraman out. I don't think he was ready for it. But then they just sacrifice all that, and they get Goof in. My little dog Pockets comes in the ring. And did you see the obvious, ridiculous, stupid-looking, overplayed play acting referee distraction by Hatchet Head Taylor and the referee?
Yeah.
If anybody go back and look at that's exactly what you would never do as a referee distraction. And not only were you calling attention to it, but you were obviously making fun of the fact that the referee has to be distracted for this foolishness to go on behind him. Then here comes Orange Cassidy, and he fucking play kicks the fucking guy in the shins a couple times, and then Pac kicks him and knocks him out of the ring. Why? Why was it there? It accomplished nothing in a positive manner. It made everybody go, what the fuck? Why is this happening? Who is this guy? Why is he play kicking the guy's shins? There's still no explanation why he acts this way. Was he in a fucking car wreck? Does he have brain damage of some kind? He's undergone therapy, but he's got the mind of an 8-year-old. And also for the people who go, well, if he sold them, if the guy sold the play kicks, that would be a problem, but they don't sell them. So why is it a problem? Why did your parents breed? Why did they fuck in a flower bed and make a blooming idiot like you? What fucking sense does it make if you're supposedly in a fight against somebody or your friend's in a fight against them, if you go up and do obviously phony shit to them and then let them knock you the fuck out? It's still phony. It's stupid. There's no reason for it. It's silly. Once again, pull my pants down and fucking moon the crowd to see if somebody will pay attention to me and everybody will giggle. Because my friends have important jobs, so I got carried along for the ride. He took a shitty bump when Pac kicked him. Then Trent makes a comeback and does an amazing dive, but at this point, they've killed the concept of this as a match. Jim Ross, go back and watch from the time Orange Cassidy gets in the ring until the time he gets knocked out of the ring. Jim Ross, I believe, says, because he didn't want any of that on him. Because he's trying to be a fucking professional and he doesn't want to be embarrassed when he actually goes out and does appearances where people know who he is. Oh, you're the guy that was talking about my little dog Pockets. Why, if people in the company are openly embarrassed about shit, why put that shit on your fucking air on national television and ruin all these guys' work? Pac should be a star. Trent should be a star. Chuck Taylor should be a valet parking attendant. And Orange Cassidy should be dropped naked from a helicopter in front of his family. Comedic exaggeration, trademark.
How dare you say that he should be killed? How dare you root for everyone?
That's just the way I roll, baby. All right.
Can I ask you something though? Like, take the distaste for Orange Cassidy out of it for just 1 second. We've seen him now on TV with the Best Friends for weeks. We saw him that one match with the Young Bucks where he dove on everyone. Have we seen the entire act? Like, because now, even if you get a kick out of it, why do you want to keep watching it? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well,
is there more to it?
Yeah, for people on Twitter will say, but once he starts wrestling, he's a great wrestler. Well, nobody's going to care anyway because he's a fucking comedy goof and nobody's going to take it seriously. And would people start selling for this fucking guy? You know, and why is he acting that way? Is there a psychiatrist report? Was he scarred somehow that he doesn't understand what's going on around him? There's no explanation. Anyway, further with this match, I'm calling 6 weeks before, guess what happens?
I don't know.
Their first lawsuit, if they keep using the guardrails like that.
Oh, really? Interesting.
because they're hitting those guardrails so hard. They are of the indie mindset. That's the first thing I've had to do on every company that I've joined in the last 15 years. I've had to go to them, and when Ring of Honor was bought by Sinclair, I had to tell those guys. It's a different story than when Ring of Honor was owned by beloved ticket broker Kerry Silkin, and you could give somebody a T-shirt that would make up for the 2 teeth in their mouth that you just knocked out when your foot went over the guardrail and kicked Junior in the mouth. They'll take a T-shirt and free tickets. When they find out there's a $1 billion company, whether it be Sinclair Broadcasting or now the fucking Jacksonville Jaguars or Con Empire, whatever, they're not as forgiving. And what about if all those guys who think it's a badge of honor that you land in their lap or the sweat flies on them or they get the guardrail in there? What about when one of those guys falls on a kid in the second row and his parents ain't so fucking happy? Let's say no kids go. Let's say a woman who happens to be there with her boyfriend because he just had to fucking go and she should give a shit, right? And she gets kicked in the side of the head. Whatever the fuck. Stay away from the people. It's now you're on national TV and a billionaire owns you. Somebody will try to sue instead of being one of these mosh pit fucks in the fucking heavy metal concert that want to get beat up. Most normal people do not go and buy a ticket to see a sport or an entertainment where they actually emerge injured. That's just something to keep in mind. These guys worked hard. It would have been a good match without the Stooges at ringside. But then here's the thing. Pac hits Trent with a brain buster on the floor that looked incredible. And they milked the count well. And then Pac hits an incredible splash off the top. 1, 2, and the referee stopped the count. JR called it over. So did Tony Schiavone. There was the what the fuck moment. People started booing. Then Pac rolls Trent over and gets a submission, and the referee calls for the bell there. That obviously was a huge fuck up because the referee obviously thought he was going to kick out of the splash, held up at 2. Then when he saw he didn't kick out, almost counted to 3, and then realized that would even be worse. But when you give a motherfucker a brain buster on the floor, then you fucking roll him in, and whether that was supposed to be the finish or not, this goddamn splash looked incredible. The fact that you were able to pick up the brain buster on the floor, that good looking, could have been an angle for this guy for a pay-per-view match with a big opponent. It looked that good. He throws it away at a free TV match and then rolls the guy back in, hits him with another move, and then has to tap him out. Who is responsible for this shit? For fuck's sake. And then when the referee went to raise Pac's hand, he jerked away. He was fucking hot. And then he did a good promo in the ring because he was hot. Actually brought some emotion out. When the guys get pissed, they sound good.
What would you have had the referee do in that situation where he's expecting the
pack his bags? If that wasn't the finish, if the guy was supposed to kick out, I don't blame the referee. I blame the agent or the producer or whoever booked this shit. If the guy was going to kick out of that, it was lunacy. So, but if he wasn't supposed to kick out and the referee held up because he was fucked up, I would help the referee pack his bag because that's national TV and they didn't need that right then. And, you know, and the thing is, if the shoulders are down, you're supposed to count it like a shoot. So it would have, if the referee had counted 3 and that wasn't the finish, it would have been the boys' fault. But whether it was the finish or not, because the referee didn't count, it was the referee's fault. Nevertheless, next came the segment of the night, live in-ring interview with Cody Rhodes and Tony Schiavone. And I tweeted about that because I felt like it couldn't even wait till the next day. That was a fucking promo. He speaks well. He had goods to Ellis Island for wrestlers. You carny succubus, you stupid dick. He had the people fired up. That was a fucking promo to talk some people in the building, I thought.
I thought it was excellent. The only bad thing I'll say about it is when you have that in a sea of shit.
Well,
you know, because I put that on Twitter. I said every Cody and Jericho segment, pretty much, I think just about everyone on TV I've loved, and every single one has been surrounded by something I didn't want to see. So if you have a great segment, I mean, it makes me wish that we still had tape trading so I could tell some guy, hey, at the end of the month, send me a tape on SP with just the segments I want. Because, you know, the match before it,
we would customize back in the AWA show. You would in a 6-hour tape, you would get 3 matches and the rest would be promos because that was the best of the AWA show.
Yeah.
And you would get the best parts of each of the territories.
Because that's a big test for me. You have this hot angle, you have this hot interview, whatever it may be. What comes after it? What's going to be able to retain my viewership after this? And they failed this week.
Well, because what was after Cody doing the modern day Hard Times promo was some real hard times for the wrestling fans. Did you understand also? This match was for the 3rd place in the World Tag Team Championship tournament, and they get bronze medals. So they're fighting for 3rd place. It's Dark Order versus Private Party. SCU was on color. Where are the announcers? It was a horrible shot. It was a side shot of the announcers. It looked like they were all in a corner somewhere. And SCU were on headset standing over them. I don't know what the fuck, but they didn't contribute on color that much. But in a large part, I did tune some stuff out, but they've covered Fatso up, but it still looks stupid. The Creepers is stupid. The whole tag team looks outlaw. There's better looking guys on any fucking local outlaw show, not even a national TV outlaw show, but a local outlaw show than these 2 fucking clowns. And they went through a break with this shit. And poor Private Party. And when they come back remember I always talk about coming back from the break in a running spot or something athletic, something exciting that you can start calling and then reset. They came back with Fatso doing a back rake. I'll say this again. Mark Quinn is a phenomenal athlete, not just the moves, but he has charisma and he has physical grace that's unusual. If I were Tony Khan, I would immediately give him a raise and I would relocate him to a good training school with a program that is run by a veteran, Dr. Tom Pritchard down in Knoxville, somebody. And I would have his basics polished. I would work on his psychology. I would work on trying to ingrain in him how to make his best moves mean the most and get him plenty of experience on little shows, possibly down south where the people are actually normal wrestling fans because even the shows up north, even if it's a local show in front of 150 people, they're all the smart, chanty, all elite cosplay wrestling type of fans. Whereas down south, if old Joe Kazana ran his fucking hometown, you'd get 400 fucking wrestling fans that don't even know it's a work yet. He needs to be in front of some of those people so he can get experience and feel a proper crowd. And I would bring this guy and his partner to every TV. And if I wasn't going to put him over, I wouldn't use him. I wouldn't beat him for 6 months. And I'm not knocking the other guy, but I would actually probably look to make him a single. And he would be a superstar African-American babyface that the kids would love, because I don't know if they have any little African-American kids as fans, but they sure would if they used this guy right. He could be Rey Mysterio-ish. Anyway, so now they're going to say, oh, Cornette hates AEW. He wants to give Mark Quinn a raise and relocate him at Tony Khan's expense at a powerful training program. Anyway, they did a bunch of overly complicated shit, which involved Dark Order looking like goddamn indie goofs. And then, thank fucking Christ, their Private Party hit the Hurricane Rana into the RKO and got a 1, 2, 3. Like they should have every other time they've hit that. It's beautiful and it's flawless. What do you think of old Private Party?
I didn't watch that match. I literally.
Well, there you go.
Like I said,
the Dark Order.
Yeah, no,
they're a black hole of charisma.
They had
not only do they not have charisma, but they suck out the charisma of those around them.
they had a chance. They've had multiple weeks now to make me care about that tag team, and I don't want to watch them. But more importantly, I just feel like the whole tag team booking has been shit. Even like you said, the tag team tournament was a mess. You get a first round bye into the match. Now you get a medal.
Which is a first round match.
Yeah, now you get a medal.
The winner of this match goes to the fucking second round. Well, that means it's a first round match. And the win-loss records and et cetera. Guess who, by the way, we'll find this out in a minute, but guess whose record is 5-0 when he comes out?
Whose record is 5-0? I don't know.
Chris Jericho, baby.
Oh, well, there you go.
Because he's the only smart one. Speaking of which, the Chris Jericho Inner Circle video, mocking Cody and Brandy's video, Soul Train Jones, for fuck's sake, Chris's aunt's friend from church. This was funny in a heelish way. This was heels being smartasses, not guys making fun of the wrestling business. I liked this. What did you think?
I really like this. And again, who has been more critical of Chris Jericho over the last several years than me? He's killing it in AEW. Yeah. This video, like you said, I always worry, is it going to be too silly? But it wasn't, because the whole idea of it was
to be silly and make fun of the baby faces, like prick heels.
Yeah, I love
like smartasses.
And again, I'm going to say what I've said to you before. I love Sammy Guevara with Jericho.
Yeah.
I really, really love this. I love this, and I love the Cody segment. I just wish the show was nothing but Cody and Jericho segments.
The Chris Jericho show. Okay, listen, here's the thing. Excalibur, this is an actual quote. Remember I said he sounds like a mark in his basement talking? When the fucking, was it the clip or where they got, anyway, the clip of the Young Bucks got jumped, but here was the quote from Excalibur. Just jumping, literally just jumping the Young Bucks post-match, the brutality at its most brutal. Brutality at its most brutal. So now here I got another problem with him from a business standpoint. Do you know the philosophy that Vince McMahon has about crossing over the top of the hour?
I'm not sure.
Well, when the original Monday Night Wars started, Vince McMahon determined that at the top of the hour, that's when people switch out, right? At let's say 8 to 10, at 9 o'clock, that's the top of the hour. We need to be not in commercial, but we need to be in program. And we not only need to be in program, but we need to have some major stars or some shit going on, some big names, something. That's why for years they had one of the biggest stars on the roster be walking to the ring right at the top of the hour for a live interview where he was going to announce some shit. Or they had a big main event match, right? At the top of the hour. This program, starting at 8:57 p.m. Eastern time, brought out Jamie Hayter and Emi Sakura to take on Shayna and Riho in a tag match. And what people saw in the minute and a half preceding the top of the hour was Emi Sakura, who looks like Margaret fucking Cho, dressed up as Freddie Mercury, complete with a mustache. And the people in the building that liked this shit were farting at it. Did you hear the same thing I did? I heard a lot of farts.
I did, yeah.
All four of the girls got separate entrances, like this was Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, and fucking Steve Austin. They all got separate entrances. Then this match continued until 9:15. So not only did four unknown girls, and everybody, no, we know who they are. They're on YouTube. No, what the fuck? In the United States of America, for the average wrestling fan and for the sake of a national television audience, Jamie Hayter, Emi Sakura, Shanna, and Riho are not fucking mainstream names. And they not only got individual entrances, but had a match that went through a break and went 18 minutes across the top of the hour on a brand new television program in the middle of a ratings war with their competitor. McFly! What the fuck? And see, this is not analysis you're going to get at fuckwodwrestlingcentral.com because all they look at is, oh, the girls did some good moves. No, I'm looking at, they want to be in a wrestling war. They want to play with the big dogs. They better get up off the porch. I'm looking at this from a business standpoint. And I've been right next to the guy that they're in the fight with, and I know what his philosophies are. And this wasn't it. And there's an interesting correlation that we can draw to NXT here coming up. But anyway, they started at 8:57, went to 9:04, went to a break and did a picture-in-picture and who gives a shit. They come back at 9:07 on a chin lock by Margaret Cho, I believe. Riho can't tag over the top rope with her feet on the apron because she's too minuscule. So she's allowed to tag standing on the bottom rope. And then Emi Sakura, that household name, rolled Riho up. 1, 2, 3. Has Riho been on every show since that they have aired?
I don't think so.
She's been, okay, there's been 5, right?
Yeah. Or
okay, she's been on 4. Yeah. She's been on 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6, I bet you. It's almost like she knows somebody in management in the biblical way. Fucking hell.
Hey, can I ask you something? Riho on the pay-per-view, she's defending the title against Emi Sakura, right?
Apparently.
I thought wins and losses matter. Because Emi Sakura, I'm looking here at the AEW website, she has 1 loss in a trios match, 1 loss in a tag match, and 1 singles win, according to the website here. So if wins and losses matter, how does she get a title shot?
Well, because now she just beat the champion. Even though she beat the champion after the match was announced where she'd get a shot at the champion.
Yeah, that's my point.
Well, you're overanalyzing.
I'm going to reiterate something I said last week. I like women's wrestling when it's done right. AEW shouldn't have a women's division.
Well, and that's... Hold on. The Brandy video is she's tired of being known just for Cody. She builds Awesome Kong up. She has dreams and nightmares. So she's apparently flipped her wig, right? She's going insane. She's turning to the dark side.
I think so.
She was just the beloved cohort of Cody and smiling and running the women's division 6 weeks ago. Did they all of a sudden realize, well, wait a minute, if we want to have her on TV in the women's division, she shouldn't be running it? They just figured that one out? I'm not sure what's going on here. Let's pick up some time. Brandon Cutler versus Sean Spears. 2 bald guys with beards the same size. And Sean Spears went over with the Death Valley Driver, and it was a match. Wasn't insulting. Didn't really care. What happened afterwards was Spears goes over with the Death Valley Driver and starts to get some heat on old Brandon Cutler, who I understand is the guy that went to school with the Young Bucks, right? So he's back on television. Here comes his name is now Jelly Nutella. Is that correct? Jelly Nutella.
That is correct.
Jelly Nutella hits the ring, and Sean Spears with Tully Blanchard. Sean Spears, the chairman that caves people's heads in with chairs, with member of the Four Horsemen, Tully Blanchard, one of the most feared evil heels in all of wrestling, run from a fucking guy in zebra print leggings and what looked like he should have been wearing the zebra print brassiere to go with it. And he makes a... Jelly Nutella hits the ring wearing the feminine pants and a pouty face, and Sean Spears takes off like he's seen a fucking ghost. Why?
Makes no sense. Here's another thing I put on Twitter. They have one of the great talkers, Tully Blanchard, there. How many promos has he done on TV?
None. What? MJF?
None. It's incredible. Cody's segments are great because he does the promos, and all these matches go through at least 1, sometimes 2 commercial breaks. Put more promos on the fucking show and less matches that make me go downstairs. And no one's running from Joey Nutella.
No, fucking Enzo didn't even run from Joey Nutella.
That's right.
Okay, let's talk about the main event so we can get over to NXT, because there's a few things I want to say about this one. It was Adam Page and Kenny Olivier against Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho. They do separate entrances again. Olivier has feathers hanging off of his vest. I don't know why. I like Sammy Guevara being a cocky shit, shooting the video of himself on his phone, and it's airing on the show. That's kind of cool. Poor old Adam Page needed some oomph here, and I'll get to that in a minute. Here comes Chris Jericho, and he's obviously the star. And he's taken as a star, and he comes off like a star. He's got Jake Hager with him. He's always got a stooge with him. His record is 5-0. I don't know, is Hager's gimmick that he dresses like a CPA at a golf game and has no expression? Is that the gimmick? I'll work with it if it is, but elsewise, he could animate himself a bit. But anyway, did you know in this match, the first thing was that Kenny Olivier and Sammy Guevara went forever. Did you notice this?
Yes.
And once again, it's one of those things where did we say a few weeks ago with the Bucks, was it stupidity or did they plan it that way? It could just be stupidity, not knowing how to put a match together. Because and Olivier's not a tag team guy, I reckon anyway. But basically he thinks, and he's probably telling everyone, I'm going to get Sammy Guevara over by working competitively with him. What he did was he and Sammy Guevara went forever. Jericho doesn't need to be in. He did the thing where he milked getting in with Olivier and then tagged back out. That's his deal. He's got heat being on the apron. Olivier and Guevara go forever. And then Olivier just walks over and gives Adam Page a flat-footed tag. He didn't get stopped by Guevara and come out of something and give a tag. He didn't stop Guevara and control him and bring him to Adam so that they could do a double team thing. He could just walked over and flat-footed tagged him like, come here, kid, help me out. Then they did double team shit, which Olivier is the one who shined in and left Adam Page to do the little fucking backflip and cover like the little fellow, the little sidekick. While the crowd is chanting cowboy shit because they like Adam Page, and in Charlotte they like cowboy shit, Page has already been made the secondary guy on the team. Olivier's the guy Jericho didn't want to start with. Olivier's the guy that ended up controlling Guevara. Then Olivier walks over and tags Page in under no duress so Page can come get some. It's little things like that. And either the guys are just stupid, or maybe Olivier's smarter than I think, because he took a method acting class and he knows what he's doing. He minimalized Adam Page. The entrances started at 9:31 p.m. Eastern, and Adam Page's first time in the match was at 9:44. And then, to be honest, Adam Page and Sammy Guevara did not click with me right off because they were just trying to work the same way everybody else does. Jericho gets in and against Adam Page, and it instantly picks up. But then they did simultaneous tags, and here comes Olivier and Sammy Guevara in, and Kenny Olivier cannot throw a punch to save his life. You could do a triple fucking gainer with 13 twists off the top rope, can't throw a punch. I cannot get about the fucking modern wrestling star. Anyway, now while Olivier and Sammy Guevara are in the ring, Page and Jericho just disappeared off the aprons to the floor somewhere. It was like they vanished. So that Olivier can do an insufferable amount of posing and gesticulating and pointing and nodding and prancing to tease the dive, and then Jericho stops him, thank God. And then he tries again, and Hager clocks him in the head. So I was enjoying that. At least they were stopping that fucking dive. But Page was secondary in this, and he needs more help than Olivier does, because Olivier's already got these people drinking his fucking Kool-Aid. Anyway, they take another break. When they come back, at least the heels are healing. Page made a nice comeback. But now why does everybody doing a dive land on their feet? They land on their feet like it's so easy. They never miss. Everybody, Page moonsaults off the top rope and lands on his feet on the floor after hitting the guy. It lessens the impact, the collision of the two guys. Sell the collision. Go down. Also, if you can land on your feet, it's too perfect. It's too pretty. I mean, do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
If it's that easy that you can not only dive over the top rope but land on your fucking feet, then that's why Olivier looks like a fucking ballet dancer diving into a swimming pool. Anyway, they do everything same way, same time. So then, basically, here comes Pac and nutshots Page, and Jericho hits the Judas effect and knocked him goofy, it looked like. Boom, 1, 2, 3, which I wanted Jericho to get the win, but I wish he'd have beat fucking Goofball. Because Page he's not standing up under this treatment yet. And then here's where we go. They got me real good, and then I got away. I was the one that got away. They keep the heel heat going. Then Cody makes a save. And then, the people are up. Then here comes fucking MJF, and he fucking chairs Hager and pitches Jericho back in. Cody hit an awkward crossroads. That didn't work exactly right. But when he picked up the belt, I'm like, that's a great fucking deal. But then here comes Moxley. And he gets in the ring, and he faces off with Olivier, and Cody just steps aside. Then Jericho grabs Cody and jerks him out, and he and Hager get on Cody, and MJF comes to help him. And while that's going on, Olivier calmly rolls out to the floor, does nothing to help the guy who just saved his ass, gets his stupid barbed wire mop out to even up the barbed wire bat that Moxley has. They have an awkward stalemate waiting for Santana and Ortiz to jump Moxley and Omega, but the Bucks immediately come and super kick everybody and beat the shit out of Santana and Ortiz. But then Santino and Ortiz suddenly go to powerbomb one of the Bucks through the stage, but Olivier saves him. Then he had a hockey fight with Moxley, and then the balding Buck comes off the top of the entranceway onto everybody. And now it's just a fucking mess. That was a spectacle if you were just wanting people to go, oh my God, that television program was wild, boy. But they had just tried to focus on their pay-per-view this Saturday. And then in not laser focusing on Cody with belt standing over Jericho, they lost all the points and just made it chaos. So it was a chaos TV show that people will like, but they lost the points of their pay-per-view. Did they not?
I thought it was quite convoluted. I mean, it was just so much going on. You don't know, by the way, you don't know who the baby faces and the heels are. I know they don't want baby faces and heels, but just everyone fights everyone for no reason.
They need some because we can't tell which is which. And unless you can tell which is the baby face and which is the heel, how the fuck are you supposed to tell what's going on?
I thought it was stupid they had the camera on the door as soon as Moxley and the security guard walked in from the crowd. Like they knew he was going to be there. Like I said, there were things I liked and there were things I didn't like. The brawl was okay. I didn't go as crazy about it as some other people did, but the Cody segment and the Jericho segment was great. I didn't ask you one thing. What did you think about the stipulation with Cody that if he doesn't win the AWA title, he'll never get another AWA title shot? You think it's too soon to do a stipulation like that?
Well, yes and no. Because it would be too soon unless he's really going to lose his chance, because it would be very Dusty-ish. They built up the match. And finally, Cody makes that statement. He's so confident, and I would imagine that the match will look remarkably like Cody is going to win this, and it's a foregone conclusion, and then somehow something's going to happen where he gets fucked. And then, because Jericho can't lose the belt this early, and Jericho's the mainstream name, and they need to hang their hat on him for as long as possible. So, but what this does is this allows Jericho to then defend against people for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, however long their window is that they're thinking this, and make a big deal out of the fact that Cody will probably go, I would hope, undefeated, but not be able to get another match until finally something happens that forces that fucking onerous and burdensome stipulation to be lifted for the big match where Cody wins it. That would be Dusty.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let me ask you one other thing with MJF and Cody, because obviously on TV they're friends.
Oh, maybe I know what might happen out of the blue to fucking Cody.
Well, that's my question. Let's say hypothetically that happens. Let's say this is the moment where MJF turns on Cody. It can go a bunch of different ways. Eventually, Cody could turn on everyone and be with MJF. You don't know exactly how it'll go, but let's say it goes that way. Do you think they've done enough to establish MJF being Cody's friend, being a heel to all the other guys, that he's a heel? Like, have they done anything to establish MJF's character on TV to anyone other than the people who are already drinking the Kool-Aid? If you're just watching that show, do you know who he is, why he's there, why he's friends with Cody, why that's a big deal? Do you know any of that?
Very, very little, and hopefully I won't know any more, because I'm sorry, but MJF is such a good heel. And whatever they do and whatever interesting twist, the point is MJF is such a good heel, and everybody knows he's a heel, and it may cause interest and intrigue, but also eventually people know something's going to happen. I'd prefer to be giving MJF not only a win in the ring every week, but also a long promo, whether it be a promo segment where he interviews other people or just where he talks himself, and not worry so much about the goddamn story with Cody, because just let MJF will, if he was on every week in that fashion, he would take over the program within 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
well, is there anything you know of prohibiting him with his MLW contract? I mean, there's nothing stopping him from doing promos and being on TV more, right?
Only the guy with the pencil writing it down on a piece of paper.
Okay.
Would you like to have the pencil?
Not with that company, no.
Anyway, all right, real quickly, NXT. This ain't going to take long. I'm going to tell you why. It was a tale of two shows to me. By the way, the prophecy came true. What was it 2 weeks ago? I said, any name from any national television show can show up in NXT anytime they want it to, right? And here comes AJ Styles and Anderson and Gallows
to open
the show, invading NXT. The prophecy comes true. Imagine that. And this time they're doing the invasion angle right, because whoever the visitor is gets an advantage over the home field stars. They beat up NXT, beat up the fucking SmackDown people in front of the SmackDown fans. And now some of the Raw people or whatever the fuck are coming back to do the same thing in NXT. They're doing it right this time. And plus, they have a overfull talent roster, the WWE does, on 3 different shows, all of them on national television. And they are crossing over talent. And I'm sure they used AJ and Anderson and Gallows because these 3 guys understand the business and they know how to get young guys over and don't mind doing it. And so there's a little on-the-job training involved. But also, we've seen how thin the all-elite roster is because they're putting the same people on TV every week, especially some of them that didn't need to be on the first time, much less repeatedly. And they were so overconfident, which is, I believe, another of the things that I mentioned. There's no, oh boy, this is going to be a tough fighter. Oh boy, we've got our work cut out for us or whatever. It's like, oh, this foregone conclusion. We'll be on TV and we're all great. And we're all over. We're going to change the world. Well, you're going to change the world shorthanded. Because what the billionaire should have been doing, instead of listening to his fucking Weasley Outlaw Mud Show fucking executive vice presidents that look like grade school children, is, as I mentioned, going out and sweeping the world for real talent, not outlaw indie talent that tickles his wrestling people. He should have been talking to other promotions. Can I work out a deal? Can I buy the Briscoe brothers from you, Ring of Honor? Can I buy Jay Lethal from you? Can I lease someone else from Impact? Because sooner or later, if you got the money, you're going to end up with them. But in the meantime, they would have started out with not only a more serious roster that could be taken seriously, but also a larger roster that could be rotated against. They are literally fighting 100 of the best wrestlers on the planet that are all under contract to the WWE. So they have AJ Anderson and Gallows come out, good promo, but then Ciampa comes out to confront them, welcomes them to the main roster. They had a good back and forth. When they brought Matt Riddle and Keith Lee out, they didn't let them talk, which was good. Ciampa did it. And they've challenged at the top of the program for a 6-man tag later tonight. I know what my main event is. This is Vince McMahon, WWE Television 101, right? Now we go to Pete Dunne and Damian Priest. And they had a good, solid match. And there's no point in reviewing a lot of this stuff in the same detail we do every week because these guys are highly trained. They are athletes. Some of them have different styles. I was surprised that Dunne tapped Priest out. I really like Priest. I think he's got the look of a top guy. But then Killian Dane laid both of them out. So poor old Damian Priest got tapped out by fucking Pete Dunne and then laid out by the guy that attacked Dunne. What the fuck? Poor Damian, no love.
I have to say, I know you're high on Damian Priest. I'm not as high on Pete Dunne as everyone else is, but I thought this was too long, for me at least.
Well, yes. They're all these matches are going through breaks when they don't need to. And it was long. As a matter of fact, I think I wrote down something to the effect of, little long. Okay, but we made up for it because next was Tainara against Santana Garrett. And I fast forwarded it. I don't know what happened. I don't care. Because your opinion was unpopular. AEW shouldn't have a women's division. My opinion is going to be even more unpopular. There's too many fucking girls matches everywhere. I'm a fan of the girls, especially the top girls, the girls that can work. But it cannot be 50-50. You can't have as many girls matches as you do guys matches. Because for one thing, that would suck. And for another thing, there's not as many good girls as there are good guys. And the guys have a 100-year head start. It's an attraction. And the girls at the top level, the girls with personality, the girls that look different, the girls with backgrounds, the Ronda Rouseys, the Shayna Baszlers, the Charlottes, the fucking Rhea Ripleys, all the people we put over. That's fine. But here's two girls just on national TV in the middle of a ratings war. And then they followed that with another girls match, Dakota Kai and Shayna Baszler. And I was going to zip through that too, but I want to love Shayna Baszler. But this time, Dakota Kai takes her through a fucking break. It went too long. It got sloppy. Dakota Kai looks like Helen Hunt. And I'm suffering from wrestling overlord. Wrestling overlord. Overload. Overload's what I'm searching for. But then here's the difference. And remember, the girls went across the top of the hour just at 4 unknown girls in a match?
Yeah. This
was every girl in NXT right at the top of the hour getting in a fucking giant brawl to plug War Games. So if you turned on one channel, there's 4 girls that you've never seen before having a tag team match. And on this channel, there's every girl in the company is fucking brawling all over the building. So if you're going to, and then Mia Yim comes out and steals the show with the fucking kendo stick. That was some passion and emotion.
See, I like Dakota Kai. I think she's a really good sympathetic babyface.
Well, I'm sorry, too much girl wrestling. And especially back-to-back matches on the television program.
What'd you think of the promo afterwards?
Yeah.
Well, just the storyline that Dakota Kai's upset that she didn't get picked for the War Games and she kind of sulked off.
Well, yeah, that was and why would Rhea Ripley not look at the fucking camera? She never looked at the camera once. It was like she was trying to avoid knowing that there was a camera there in front of her. And she looks over her shoulder and says, "Well, Dakota, you didn't make the cut." And then everybody goes, "Ooh, oh, I'm sorry. It's wrestling. I want somebody to get revenge for a broken neck or a fucking assaulted fucking family member. I don't care that somebody got picked last for dodgeball. Just my opinion." Anyway, Tony Nese and Angel Garza, you know what this match did? Went through a fucking break.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
I remember Tony Nese from some of our Ring of Honor seminars, and he's a great kid. But he did a great 450 splash and landed on Garza, and Garza did a great leg on the rope that got a pop. But then Garza hits the double arm ass driver. I've never seen that move before. Like he's going to double arm suplex him, then picked him up and hooked his legs around his body and then dropped his ass down. It was, I guess, is it a double arm ass driver? Would that be?
I guess that's the only thing you can call it.
Yeah. It was a nice move, but it was a long match. So went through a break. And then here comes Isaiah Swerve Scott and Donovan Dominic Dijakovic. Even Morrow couldn't say it this week. He fumfered on Dijakovic. Here's the thing. I want a TV match to get somebody over. They went a while back and forth competitively. At one point, Dijakovic hits a great choke slam powerbomb, got a 2 count. Swerve turns Dijakovic a flip with a clothesline, gets a 2 count. Then Dijakovic jumps up and hits Swerve and turned him a flip. And as soon as he landed, he jumped up, fired up, no-sold it, and double stomped Dijakovic. So that whole clothesline was eliminated. And I started at that point to fast forward because I was done with the match because that was just so stupid. But that's when Dijakovic immediately comes right back up and hits a finish on Swerve. Can we have a TV match where somebody gets over? Anybody, for fuck's sake. Constant.
You know, 50-50 booking's one thing, but every match is 50-50. Every match has to be both guys just doing everything they can and kicking out of everything. And I have to say, this was my least favorite NXT episode we've watched so far.
Well,
and that was one of the reasons. It just felt like it was just matches. Just come watch matches.
That's what I said. It was a tale of two cities. If you notice, let's go back and look at these notes here. AEW. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. AEW started out with a pretty good match, except for, fucking pockets, right? And the great promo in the middle, and the great Jericho business in the middle, and then the great stuff at the end. But otherwise, it was blah. NXT starts out, great fucking segment at the start. The filling, it was mostly bleh, and then a great fucking match at the end. Styles and Gallows and Anderson against Riddle and Lee and Ciampa. And even though I don't like that they did individual entrances for the baby faces, because I know Vince loves it and that's the way they do it because it treats everybody as a star, except if they're a full-time group. But they should be hot. That should be the NXT team. Riddle shouldn't come down acting silly. He should have a game face on. Should have showed some seriousness. They all should have come down together and then jumpstart. Because as it was, Riddle came down, had to stand there. Then Lee comes down, has to stand there. Then Ciampa comes down. Then he says, come on. Then we jumpstart. Well, why the fuck didn't the heels just jump out of the ring and beat the piss out of Riddle before Lee got there? The invisible wall that they talk about on AEW. That's where that comes from. People asking that same question. Anyway, I'm glad they didn't do a 6-way long because they had a lot of time to put in, but they settled down and AJ Styles and Ciampa were good together. And this match had a good pace. The heels led it. They covered Keith Lee's green and showed his strengths. This match made the most sense of any match on any TV show that I watched in this group, whether it be NXT, All Elite, Impact, you can call that a wrestling show, or whatever the fuck. It was a good match that made sense and put everybody in the right place. And the first time Riddle got in was to make a big-ass comeback. So that really picked him up a notch. And did you love the spot where they worked out? I can't even describe how they went into it, but Keith Lee pounces AJ and AJ flies into the fucking referee. That looked like $1 million.
That was great. Yeah.
I loved that. And out of that 6-way, when they did that, then AJ got a chance to do a little shit with Riddle, and then they do that pounce. Now the referee, and he's believably out for a while. But then did you see Riddle tries the Fosbury flop dive and caught his ass on the rope and almost killed himself?
Yeah, that looked brutal. When he hit the apron, actually, was what
yes,
was brutal. Yeah,
because that apron will break your back, especially when you torque. Just one night in California on the WWF ropes, they were real ropes instead of cables. I fucking hate them. Shawn Michaels, the greatest worker supposedly in the world. They want him to pitch me over the top rope. And I'm not an aerial artist, and I especially wasn't then. But also with those fucking ropes instead of cables, it can fuck you up bad. And I'd said, I go a lot out between the second and third a lot better. Oh, no, over the top rope. So I try to get the goddamn jump and go too fast over. And because it's ropes instead of cables that you could have got some base on, I spun around, hit the side of my knee on the apron, tore the fucking cartilage, knee went out, and I had to have it drained, and I was fucking limping for 3 weeks just because of those fucking ropes. But anyway, I think at that point, what I jotted down was, because I tried to keep track of this, Ciampa was ready to put AJ away when Balor came out and distracted him, and then Balor DDT'd Riddle on the floor and showed unity with AJ. But then AJ went for the Styles Clash on Ciampa, but Adam Cole came in with a potato. He had potatoes in his boots, ladies and gentlemen. A potato super kick on AJ, and then hit the knee to Ciampa, and then was in a stare down with Balor, but there was no finish, correct?
You know, now that you say that, I'm trying to remember what the finish is.
No, there was no finish.
Yeah.
They knocked the referee out. These people came out and did their thing and showed their unity and stared off, but there was no finish. That took points away from me because, and the announcers were saying, well, we're out of time or whatever. Not even, my God, the match is still going on, whatever the fuck. So that was awkward. But the job that these guys did up until they were saddled with, and they could have easily closed a loophole up and had some type of fucking finish, or at least had a non-finish and had somebody call it rather than just go off the air without the match being resolved. That was very Russo-ish. I remember one time in TNA in a production meeting, Russo had wanted some kind of shit to go some kind of way like he always did. First thing I said, this match can't happen because you've got the match finishing, but the match never started. The bell never rang to start the match. He said, who's going to notice something like that? So I go to the talent, tell them this is what they want to do. First thing I said was, well, the match never started. So then I called Russo over. I said, tell Vince, the one observation you made about the finish he came up with. And they said, the match never starts. And he looks at me like he wanted to kill me. And I'm sure he did. And I loved those looks because it made me know that I had hate in his heart for me, despite all the things he says about his fictitious, invisible, supreme being. He hates me, and I thrive on that. I find sustenance in that. But anyway, except for the Russo likeness of the finish, they did a good job, and that was the last fucking, 20, 25 minutes of the show. They did a real good job. So started strong and ended strong. In NXT, the middle was shit. And All Elite started okay, had strong stuff in the one strong thing with Cody in the middle. Everything else was shit except for the finish. And they ended strong. So kind of the same thing on both shows. They just filled in the middle, didn't they?
This was my least favorite week, even though I love the Cody interview. I love the Jericho segment. I like the main event. I like the Baszler match, obviously a little more than you did. But other than that, and I like the AJ opening promo and the beatdown backstage. But other than that, yeah, there was just a lot of stuff I didn't need to watch.
But and this chair and this lamp. But other than that, no. But and people are going to say we're nitpicking. No, every week, and a bunch said on Twitter when I tweeted about Cody's promo, being that's way to make the dream proud, etc. Oh my God, he said something good about All Elite Wrestling. Everyone's head's going to explode. Well, I say it every fucking week, and it's usually related to Jericho or Cody or a couple other people that are actually good and actually do good things. Then it's easy to talk about them. Anyway, let's close this thing down, my boy. Are we going all the way? Are we going all in? Are we going to be all out? Are we going to be double or nothing? What is this fucking pay-per-view?
Too much?
It certainly is.
I'm not sure. Are we doing the pay-per-view?
Well, you had mentioned it to me, and now I guess I brought it up out loud. Should we will it bring a chapter to a close? Because from now on, I just want to zip through to see what Cody and Jericho are doing. I don't really want to talk about this at length. So you want to talk about the pay-per-view and put an exclamation point on it?
Yeah, let's do that, because at least we get the Jericho-Cody match. At least we'll know what the payoff is to all of this.
And maybe MJF will sodomize Cody with a rusty fishing knife.
Maybe MJF or Tully Blanchard will be handed a microphone.
Hold on, shut up. Comedic exaggeration, trademark. I don't want anybody to think, who knows what might happen.
He threatened him with a knife. He wants to be cut.
He drew a knife out on people, and I love also the fucking people. They're like fucking 17 years old. So they don't know anything because they didn't live through anything. So I don't expect them to know every bit of history. But I love it when people try to zap me on Twitter by coming back with, well, if your opinion is so important, then why did you do this? And it's shit that I not only didn't do, but wasn't even there when it happened. Like, some guy on Twitter said, well, who booked the Christmas creature? And I said, I don't know. I wasn't in Memphis at that time to find out, because I wasn't there. I don't know what you're talking about. They said, well, you made Kane an evil dentist. No, I didn't. I wasn't there either at that. Anyway, but bless their hearts. They're convinced. Anyway, all right. Next week, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We'll see if anybody has got the true story on Saudi Arabia. We'll talk about this fucking pay-per-view and the way that they've built it. That may be what they get is paid per the one view. And otherwise, until next week. What?
I was going to say,
what else we got?
We may have an appearance by the Tennessee Stud next week.
Oh, my God. Well, excellent then. Breaking news. We'll maybe have the Stud to save us also. Until then, in the meantime and in between times, ladies and gentlemen, this is the wrestling wrap-up for the week on the Jim Cornette Experience. And once again, I have not been banned from society. You'll just have to live with me till next week. Thank you. Fuck you. Bye-bye, everybody.